delighted to say that Sir Jackie Stewart is with us now. It's almost 50 years, Sir Jackie, to the day since you clinched that third of your world titles here. You didn't win the race that day, but nevertheless, I should imagine it was a pretty special day. What are your memories?
A good friend, and I always think Fangio was the greatest driver of all time, and I would put Jim Clark in next.
So, Sir Jackie, you just mentioned Fangio. Now, of course, you have seen all of the greats personally. You have a signature of Fangio as a small child. You were a small child, right?
I got his autograph. He was a fantastic man.
And now, all the way to Lewis Hamilton, you've seen all the greats, including yourself. Where do you rate Max Verstappen in that kind of lineup?
Too early.
Is it too early?
Because he's still winning. And, you know, as long as he keeps winning and then he stops before he's not winning. Fangio was able to do that. But really, Verstappen now, I think, is driving so well. He's absolutely clean in his head. Very impressive.
So, Jackie, what would you rather see today? A Ferrari win or Max make it 10 in a row and break the record?
I'd like to see a Ferrari come to the last lap and get maybe beaten in the last corner by Verstappen.
That's not nice, Sir Jackie. That's not nice. I hope the Italian fans didn't hear you say this.
Listen, they need to see a Grand Prix, and to do it in their own country, I hope they get it. It'd be wonderful.
So, Jackie, always an absolute pleasure. It's great looking back on your fantastic achievements. Enjoy the rest of the day. It's a fabulous atmosphere, as we say here in Monza. Martin Brundle spending his day a little bit differently today. We're not going to do the grid walk. Instead, he's going to spend the next hour or so with McLaren building up to lights out. Martin.
Indeed, a very different grid walk with several stages here at the Italian Grand Prix. I'm going to follow McLaren through the whole process. It is their 60th anniversary after all. And we're here then in the pit lane where, of course, the spare wings are sitting and the trolleys are just getting ready to go to the grid. I'm going to talk to Johnny here, who's involved in getting this little lot with the crew to the grid. Tell us about this rig, Johnny.
So this is what we call a grid trolley. It's basically the life support for the car when we get to the grid. So the car's going to leave very shortly, and we're going to go to the grid and set up some of the key equipment just to keep the car alive. And we've got about half an hour to set fans up. Predominantly, it's going to be cooling the car and allowing power for the system monitor, so the systems guys can monitor the brake temperatures, etc., engine temperatures for when it arrives at the grid. So
these look like sort of leaf blowers you could buy down the hardware store? Are they just adapted?
Yeah, no, these are just, you can buy these in hardware stores. They each have a special place on the car. So we have 2 fans to the radiators. We have 4 brake fans, a couple of driver cooling fans, and some other fans just on standby, just in case we need to put fans anywhere else. We carry probably 30 batteries because we go through batteries quite quickly.
Batteries for what? The car, or no? You mean just?
Yeah, they're all battery driven, so they're quite easy to use. But depending on how hot the car comes to the back of the grid, depends on how many batteries we go through. But
and what about redundancy? I know you've got to go now. I'll follow you if I may. What about redundancy with, if one of these generators breaks down or something?
We have a couple of generators that go to the grid, but they are serviced and looked after very well. So normally they run fine, and we haven't had an issue for a little while. But that would come down to managing what we plug into where. As long as the tyres are on heat, that's really the only equipment that's demanded from the generator and the grid trolley. But all the fans are battery operated, so we're not really relying on the generator as much for that. But
this feels like the start of the Grand Prix as you're all charging down the pit lane with Ferrari and everybody.
Yeah, so I mean it's the same every week. Everyone has their own job role. Everyone knows exactly what they're doing. It's the same people, and it's the same pretty much every circuit we go to. Sometimes it's longer from the garage to walk to the grid slot. There's a few races that we go to that are, you know, you've got to psych yourself up because the grid trolleys ultimately have to be pushed and pulled back from the grid. But yeah, it's quite a slick process normally. Yeah, it's just...
The first thing that surprised me is I thought you'd be going that way because the grid's sort of quite back from the pit lane, isn't it? But you're going out to the front, and then you've got to charge all the way down the grid.
Yeah, I don't know quite why we've gone this way, but I'll let the guys that are pulling. I've got the easy job at the moment.
They're charging along. I could barely keep up with them. So I'm going to come and join you a little bit later on to see what goes on when the car turns up at the back of the grid. So thanks for your information. We'll see you shortly. And back to you, Simon.
Yeah, we're back with Martin and McLaren in a few moments' time. Right, as I mentioned before the break, what a difference a week makes. This time last weekend in Zandvoort, Pierre Gasly was on the podium, only the fourth of his long career, but he starts from 17th today. However, Rachel went to visit him at home in his apartment in Milan earlier this week while still on a high from events in Holland.
How are you doing? Nice to see you. Thanks for having me at your apartment.
Yeah, no worries.
Fabulous.
Welcome.
So Pierre, on the table in front, the trophy from the Netherlands. How did you end up in that position?
Yeah, I must say it felt really good to be back on the podium, especially after such an intense afternoon. Like with the strategy, we raced under, well, pretty much all possible conditions.
Do they want to take the opportunity to pit? Is it a good time to pit?
So rain will be imminent. Let us know what tires you want.
Yeah, rain. Let's box. You want a box or not? Let's go one more lap.
One more lap, one more lap.
No, box.
Enter.
And I kept going, box.
Do not reply to me, just get the tires out.
Yeah, and I was worried that they will not be ready, and in the end they were, so it was a really well executed race from the whole team.
Pierre Gasly is back on the podium for the first time since 2021.
What were you like at school?
I was the one that I knew, if I get good grades, I'll get away if I misbehave a couple of times. You know?
You were smart then as a kid.
I'll make sure I get the good marks, and then I'll be playing the clown a bit in the class, and it was often like good grades but can improve the behavior.
And we're sitting here surrounded by trophies. There's a race winner's trophy. What would you say to that kid? I mean, would have even believed it?
I still remember these days as if they were yesterday, and I still remember how much fun I got from, you know, these first few battles on track with Charles, with Antoine, with Esteban, with my friends back then at the time, and we had such a strong generation back then. Now we're racing wheel to wheel in Formula One, but that sort of look that we have and battle that we have has never changed.
Do you still want to be a world champion?
Yeah, 100%. And this is the only reason why I'm doing all this, is to be world champion and to be the best in Formula One. The day I won't care about being the best in F1, I'll do something else. Because people see the fun side of things, of being an F1 driver. But there is also a lot of sacrifices.
All right, now you're going to show me around Milan and take me for some lunch?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's.
Yeah, I will say I start to have a pretty good list of places I like in Milan, and yeah, clearly the Dome is one of my favorites just for the view. You get a beautiful view on the Duomo.
Can you walk around?
With a cap, yeah, with a cap and sunglasses, and yeah, I mean, Italians love Formula One.
Have you noticed that change over the last few years, the popularity of the sport? And yeah,
I mean, there was clearly a before Monza and after Monza 2020.
Oh my God, guys, we did it again! Oh my God, yes!
It changed many things in my life, in my career, in myself as an athlete. That there was a turning point into my career at that specific day.
why do you live in Milan?
After I found the comfort of life here in Italy, I love fashion. Fashion is a big part, especially here in Milan. I love food. I'm a foodie myself. I haven't found a bad restaurant here.
Talking of fashion,
yeah,
it is a great city for fashion, but I feel like drivers are wearing more fashion these days in the paddock. I feel like suddenly everybody's able to express themselves more. Do you?
Thanks to.
I know Lewis started doing it, but
To
having
be
said
fair,
that,
I think you know, it's important to say it. Without him, it will be different these days. Lewis opened a lot of doors for all of us, and I think the mentality has changed slightly. I think people have a lot more space to express themselves. I get on very well with Lewis. I actually thank him for sticking to his values and to himself all these years, because now it's made the path slightly smoother for us young drivers. I need to take you for a gelato, right?
Exactly.
You need your
I
Italian
want the
gelato.
best gelato in Milan.
I'll have one scoop.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you very much for the tour of Milan and
Yeah.
for showing us around your home, and all the best for this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Pierre.
you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I can understand why he wants to live in Milan. Fantastic city, this, just on the outskirts here in Monza. It's one of the features of this Alpine car this year. You just do not know what you're going to get from one circuit to the next. I know that there's been a lot of complaints. Obviously, we've got a freeze on the engines until 2026. They're concerned. They're like 20 horsepower down on the other, because they can't compete at a circuit like this, which is more suited to the drag racers amongst the field.
Look, it's a stark contrast from where they were last weekend. I mean, Pierre Gasly was on the podium, as we just heard again, and you know, we've even seen a couple of really peak moments from Gasly in Spa on the podium in the sprint race. And Ocon as well in Monaco. So the cars, I wouldn't say that they lack performance overall, but here clearly their downfall seems to be speed, and as you say, they feel they're losing 20 brake horsepower, which on a track like this, which is so high speed, very long straights, that is going to make a world of difference. So, you know, both of the drivers out in Q3, very disappointing day for Alpine.
It feels like a season. They're a team that has been under pressure. We've lost Otmar, we've lost Alan Permain, there's Fry has left, he's gone to Williams. You wonder what they've got to do to get this sorted out, because it's been year after year after year, whether they've changed their name or not, of about the same. 5th, 6th in the championship, up to 4th perhaps.
Yeah, and they have really high ambitions as well. They don't want to just be 5th and 6th. They've come out at the beginning of the year with this pyramid plan to get to the top, and clearly they've gone backwards as opposed to McLaren. If you see where McLaren are, that's going to hurt. And as you say, they've had so much senior leadership management change recently that that's not going to be a good thing for them at this point in the season. Obviously, you want to get ahead of what you're going to be able to do for next season, but as of the momentum they're having right now, that's going to change things up for them, and it's going to cause a lack of stability.
Inside and out until lights out, the crowd beginning to jump around. It's going to be buzzing, this, we know it is, particularly if Ferrari can get a win, and as we are in Italy, a time to celebrate their great leader from the past, Enzo Ferrari. We'll do that in a couple of moments' time.
When it was a Formula One weekend, he was sitting here, he had a chair here in the middle. In this fireplace was a TV, and I was staying here in the corner where you're sitting, but I couldn't speak.
Already loud down here, out on the grid, 93rd running of the Italian Grand Prix, the 74th in the championship, along with the British Grand Prix, the only Grand Prix to appear in every championship calendar year. As we said, under 50 minutes to go. Pit lane is open. Let's go to Ted.
Tell you what, it's getting loud here in the pit lane as well. Monza awaits for this Italian Grand Prix, and there are 3 words. Here are 3 words for you. Cathedral of Speed. Il Cattedrale della Veloce. And here's another 3 words that 150,000 Italian Ferrari Mad Tifosi want to say today, and it's come on Ferrari, come on Sainz. Let's see if they can be victorious against Max Verstappen. Sainz saying yesterday, let's see if we can close out the deal tomorrow. But Max Verstappen saying yesterday, we will get them tomorrow. But the start is going to be absolutely crucial today. Let's have a look at the Alpines, seeing what they can do off the start. Do they get a lot of wheel spin? Do they don't? So much will depend on the start. But Ferrari did show good long-run pace when they practiced that on Friday. Okay, maybe it wasn't as good as Max Verstappen's and that man up there, Sergio Perez, but it's still not too bad. There's Alex Albon in the Williams. What can he do today? As for the strategy, 2 stops are possible if we get a safety car later on. Pitting under a safety car, of course, costs you less time, but otherwise, it's a plumb 1 stop around Monza. Here we go. There is Charles Leclerc lining up behind the Williams, car number 16 in the Rosso Red Ferrari. Let's have a look at the start he gets. Focus on the rear wheels there. But if it is a 1 stop, you start on the soft tyre, go to lap 14 to 20, then put the hard tyre onto the end, 53 lap race. Or you can start on the medium tyre. That's the favoured tyre start for most people. Go to laps 20 to 26, and then again put the hard tyre on and go to the end. But David Croft in the commentary box, it's a long shot the win for Ferrari, but is this their best chance of the season?
It certainly is, according to Ferrari, and there's the man, Carlos Sainz himself. You know that I love a record or two. Here's a record for you. Smooth Operator by Sade. It was released this week, 39 years ago, and the Smooth Operator, Carlos Sainz, is on pole here at Monza. Will we get a rendition later on this afternoon? It's his first pole of the season. The last pole was at Silverstone in 2022, and of course he won from pole that day. He'll be hoping for some good race pace, and hoping too that the curse of Monza strikes again. It affected his teammate Charles Leclerc in 2019, Pierre Gasly, who won in 2020, and Daniel Ricciardo, who won in 2021. They returned here 12 months later and failed to finish the race. The man who won last time out, Max Verstappen, hoping the curse doesn't strike and spoil his record-breaking party this afternoon. He's going for 10 out of 10. No driver has ever achieved that in the history of Formula One. Charles Leclerc is going to have to watch out locking up like that going into the first turn, because surely he'll be putting pressure on Max Verstappen right from the off. And if Verstappen does win, or even Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull, it's 15 wins in a row for Red Bull, and no team has ever done that before either. McLaren got the closest in 1988, the one that got away and spoiled their perfect season, the Italian Grand Prix here at Monza. And here's a little nod as well as we watch Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas. What a tribute helmet from him this weekend, highlighting the former efforts of glorious Alfa Romeo drivers in the past, including Giuseppe Farina, who on this day in 1950 became the first ever F1 world champion when he took victory here at Monza. Simon, down to you.
Good stuff. I've got another stat for you, Crofty. 15 of the last 23 races have been won from pole position. That means pole position is statistically more important here than it is in Monaco. Nico, why is that? What's your hunch behind that?
It's a bit of a surprising statistic, yeah? I'm not sure. I mean, it's been in the past a little bit difficult to overtake here, but now we have DRS and everything, and the tires should be wearing quite a lot today, so I think overtaking should be possible for those that are really a lot quicker, like potentially Max Verstappen. Yeah, but anyways, I mean, certainly Carlos Sainz is in the best position possible.
Yeah, he is, but let's get into the fundamental problems surrounding that Ferrari all year. We know that it's a peaky car and it chooses tyres up. It could be an issue for them today, and could it be the biggest problem for them, the fact that degradation might be quite high?
It's probably going to be slightly less of an issue for them here, because typically this track has lower deg. Today it's obviously very hot, so it might be worse than it's been all weekend. But for them, the bigger issue is going to be that they've really got a super efficient downforce package here, which makes them quick on a one-lap pace. But in terms of grip today, I think they're going to struggle a little bit more and therefore also have more deg than potentially the Red Bulls.
Which at the same time, though, allows them to be quicker on the straights. Huh? So they're about 4 kph quicker on the straights to Red Bull. So that could help them defend.
However, also because the Red Bull is running that bigger rear wing, their DRS effect will be stronger than the Ferrari with the thinner wing.
Okay, right, as we've said and as we've seen, Martin Brundle is spending his time today with McLaren. Let's go to the back of the grid and rejoin him.
Absolutely, yes. So, second phase of preparing for the race along with McLaren. Very close to their 60th birthday. We'll get into that a little bit more. So the crew are all here at the back. I'll grab Johnny again. And so what's the format now? What do you got to do now, Johnny?
So we just wait for Lando to get to the back of the grid, and he'll pull up. We'll put the fans in, brake fans, put it on skateboards, and then we'll push it through to the grid position. Yeah, he should be round very soon.
Have you ever had it where your drivers sort of go through the gravel trap and you've suddenly got some work to do on the grid?
Not often, no. Our guys are pretty good. You know, we might pick up a tiny bit of floor damage if they've hit a curb or something like that, but normally it's pretty good.
Everybody looks very relaxed up on the barriers there.
Yeah. I mean, you know, everyone knows what they're doing. They're used to it, and it's a bit of chill out time for them, you know, before the real work starts. And then we'll pit stops to do and get the race done. So
no nerves then. No nerves at this stage.
No nerves. Not normally. No.
All right, I know you've got to go now. Lando's coming. So why am I wearing these headphones? Well, I think they've got MB on them somewhere, which is very nice of McLaren. We're going to try something a little bit different today. I'm going to try and talk to Lando while he's on the trolleys being pushed to the front of the grid. And we'll see how that goes. It's a trial. And I think Lando's up for it. I don't know. And his gloves are off. Lando, it's Martin. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, just about. No,
Lando and Martin, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
He can hear me, but I can't hear him, unfortunately. So tell us about the balance of the car. How does the car feel out there going to the grid?
It generally feels pretty terrible, but that's the expectation. Just even on these laps, the grid, the tyres overheat quite a bit. Struggle with the balance very quickly. The car becomes very disconnected, so it feels like you have a lot of instability on the entry to the corners. So the rear gets very slidey. You go from that balance straight away to a big understeer through the apex of the corner, and then you struggle with the traction. So it's a normal thing. I know I say it sounds maybe pretty bad, but it's the expectation. It's how the race is pretty much going to be all of today.
And how representative then are those 3 laps to the grid of what you're going to feel at the start of the Grand Prix? You're on full fuel now, of course.
I'm struggling to understand what you're saying exactly, so I'm just going to come up with a random answer. But yeah, I think we have to pick the balance wisely. It's a long race with the 2 or 3
we still need to
stints, depending on what we choose to do with the strategy. But a lot of it is about management today. It's about management of the tyres, choosing the battles wisely. We want to go forward though. We want to push forward. We want to try and overtake and get some positions, but it's not going to be easy.
So my left mirror has come loose. It's disconnected from the frame.
Especially on cars like the Williams, who are a lot quicker than us in the straight. So it's going to be about the tyre management, the pit stops, the strategy. That's where things are going to come towards us.
Okay, I'm trying not to get run over by your car here, actually, but it must feel weird on these wheels with the car swinging around. You must want to put some counter steer into it.
I'm still struggling to understand anything you're saying. Maybe move the mic a little bit further away from your mouth. It might be a little bit better. I don't know.
All right, I think we've had our time with you, Lando. Anyway, look, thank you for this rather unique opportunity to have a chat as you're going to your grid slot, and I know you want to focus now on the race.
Thank you so much. I think you've broken both my eardrums, but nice to talk to you as always. Cheers, mate.
Okay, so yeah, what we're going to do then, we're going to come back. So now they're going to look at the car. Drivers will leave the grid. and we're going to come back a little bit later on and see who else is around the car and talk about what's actually going on. Back to you, Simon.
It's a good sport, is Lando Norris, a good sport.
Let's have a look what we
Liam
can
Lawson,
do.
well, he's filling in, isn't he, at the moment for Daniel Ricciardo, doing a really good job just behind his teammate, Yuki Tsunoda. This has just happened over team radio, though.
Joey will discuss with you on the grid.
So my left mirror has come loose. It's disconnected from the frame.
See that bouncing around all over the place, so they'll try and get a repair on that, they really will. Okay, so here we are at the home of Ferrari. 2 Ferraris in the top 3, first time since 2018. Enzo Ferrari would have approved, and earlier this year we sent Damon to meet his son Piero.
Trova nelle nostre macchine qualcosa di diverso. Non dico che sia sempre in meglio.
Towards the car, to the grid now, full switch off procedure, full switch off.
Yeah, let's have a look what we can do. The issue we had was okay the last one, but something without noticed.
Joey will discuss with you on the grid.
So my left mirror has come loose. It's disconnected from the frame.
And we still need to sync first gear. First gear.
Okay.
Seemed to be a bit more bouncing than yesterday. Nothing substantial.
So this last lap you are losing at turns 6 and 7. We believe that you were managing quite a lot, maybe too much. But we can check the data.
Yeah, I was, but how much do I lose there?
2.5 tenths total.
Okay.
Between both.
And the rest?
Good 4 and 5, and slightly slower 8, 9. But this last lap you were slower than the previous lap. And P0, please.
Okay, you can push on brakes now. That was for engine temp, Lance, no issues. So go to the grid. One more lap, we'll go to the grid.
Okay, Kev, you'll be brought back into the garage with the engine running for that front wing adjustment.
How much it was?
So it was good, basically +2, and then you pulled it back a bit because of the wheel spin, but the initial drop was good.
Don't break traction and launch it into the pit. Launch feedback. You would target +1. Target +1.
And we still don't have the push toggle on now.
Okay, copy. I was going to just use it after I started, but copy, I do it now.
Thank you.
How much it was?
So it was good, basically +2, and then you pulled it back a bit because of the wheel spin, but the initial drop was good.
So this last lap you are losing at turns 6 and 7. We believe that you were managing quite a lot, maybe too much. But we can check the data.
Yeah, I was, but how much do I lose there?
2.5 tenths total.
Okay.
Between both.
And the rest?
Good 4 and 5, and slightly slower 8, 9, but this last lap you were slower than the previous lap. And P0, please.
Whatever, you know, like speaking with this person one-on-one, you know, probably in his farmhouse. I mean, what an icon of our sport and of the country of Italy.
I can imagine it pretty difficult to negotiate when he sat behind that big desk with those dark glasses on. That would be fairly intimidating.
Well, what he said was, it's an honor to drive for Ferrari.
Yeah.
That's why you need to accept a lot less salary, and my dad wasn't too convinced about that part.
Okay, right, fair enough. I wonder what, though, he'd make Il Commendatore of what's going on right now, or what's been going on for the last 15, 16 years there.
Well, look, it's been a very long time since Ferrari won a championship, and I think that's not something that he would be happy about. But at the same time, I think he said there, one of his famous things was, let's not look in the past, all we can control is the future. And now, here they are, pole position at their home race. Maybe this is the beginning of a turnaround for Ferrari.
Well, he said, famously, didn't he, that his favourite Ferrari was the next Ferrari, the one that's not been built yet, because he always had one eye on the future. Fred Vasseur was playing it down yesterday. What I found really interesting, I don't know about you, Nico, is that there was no jubilation, that this was a job that's not complete yet. They've got pole position, but points are won today, and he wanted to keep their feet on the ground. Did you think that was a good tactic by the new team principal?
I guess, yes. I mean, for me, it was a bit like, I was like, come on, Fred, like social emotion or something, your own pole. But on the long run, it's understandable and it makes sense to keep it calm, and because today matters, and in general, they're having a little bit of a difficult season, you know, so it's not really the moment to start cheering.
Yeah, you talked about the pressure on them and how, yeah, you might not have felt the pressure for the first week, but then it'll pile on, it'll ramp up, and you can see when you come in, if you've not been to Monza before, the passion here, it's unique, and it's a different environment to where we get anywhere else.
Look, wherever we have this kind of fandom and a whole wave of people who come in to support one team or one driver, it gives it that little extra something, because all the fans are united, and that's something we don't see at every location. But fantastic to see them out here again in full force, as they always come out to support Ferrari, no matter where they are on the grid. The Tifosi will be here for them.
Funnily enough, perhaps this one and the last one are the two most similar, aren't they? Because last weekend it was all about Max Verstappen, a sea of orange, and this weekend a sea of red. And well, talking of orange, it's a different kind of orange, papaya. We will be back down with Martin as the Tifosi continue to build here, because he's with McLaren and with Lando Norris's team right now. And there are his earphones with his initials on. Talking to Zach in a couple of moments' time. Back out here on the grid, don't go anywhere. Lots still to come before lights out.
At the far edge of the parkland, a famous circuit at this moment surrounded by scarlet as the Tifosi stand expected around their national autodrome. This is Monza, and today the century-old circuit welcomes back the Formula One World Championship for the 73rd time. A Ferrari on pole means we go racing amid a raucous atmosphere. You are welcome to the Italian Grand Prix on a day where the PA is blaring outside the commentary box, but the fan noise could get even louder. There are 11 turns of this 3.6-mile circuit without much of elevation, but with a rich heritage of action all the way through. This was Ricciardo versus Raikkonen from another postcode back in 2017. We look forward to the return of the Australian driver who missed this race through injury for the second week in a row. Alonso versus Webber in 2013. On the brink, masterful driving and respect from both into the Roger. That's the second chicane. This was Sebastian Vettel off the track at the second Lesmo and rejoining back in 2009 when it was Bronze Day in the hands of Rubens Barrichello. These the tyres, the soft, the medium and the hard, the C5, the C4 and the C3, the softest edge of the range for everyone in the field, and it is going to be a real test across the board for all who are preparing to take the start for the Italian Grand Prix. Here is the grid then with Lance Stroll at the back. Kevin Magnussen is in 19th position for Haas. And then it is a row 9 occupied by Alpines, really struggling with the deployment of the electrical energy here. Then it is Zhou Guanyu in 16th position. Logan Sargent is in 15th on the grid. Valtteri Bottas has won a sprint around here before. He goes from P14. Nico Hülkenberg is 13th. A second Grand Prix start, this time from 12th on the grid for Liam Lawson. He's next to his teammate Yuki Tsunoda. Fernando Alonso's worst starting position for Aston Martin is 10th, and then it is Lando Norris in 9th for McLaren. Lewis Hamilton's worst result here in qualifying for a decade puts him 8th. Oscar Piastri is the lead McLaren for the 3rd time this season. Alex Albon has made Q3 for 5 times this season. He's next to Sergio Perez in P5. And then it is George Russell in 4th, next to Charles Leclerc, who is out-qualified as 2nd for the first time by a teammate. Max Verstappen chasing history and 10 wins in a row from the front of the grid. Carlos Sainz with a 4th career pole position on an outstanding qualifying session yesterday. But it's a different story entirely. We will welcome you to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes, and this man won the...
Radio check, Max.
Yeah, radio check.
Loud and clear. So, formation lap procedures. Mode 12, the dummy launch, and formation lap. Pit limiter off. And a static 5.5 that once the car is on the ground. Carry out your launch to 3rd gear, and then during the formation lap, looking for around plus 15 on your rear left, plus 15 on your rear left. Target you feel.
Cool. Okay, mate, so everyone on medium tyres, apart from Hamilton, who's on this side up in P8, Bottas, who's a couple of cars ahead, and Magnussen there on the hard tyre.
Shrugged his shoulders, get a little laugh like he does. I wasn't giving anything away, but if Ferrari are ever going to do the team thing, today has to be the day. It's been an underwhelming season so far. That could all be just overwritten with victory in Monza.
Oh, that changes everything. That changes everything. There was a year in 1988 where McLaren were dominant, and then it was an amazing moment for Ferrari taking their first win of the year. It is 3 o'clock at Monza. This famous old circuit welcomes the best and has done for over a century. The field leaving the line, and it is a day where anything really could happen, you feel. Ferrari are chasing a first victory of the season with Carlos Sainz. The strategy is going to be crucial. Will it be the medium tyre at the start? Will it be the hard tyre at the start for those in the field? Or will you see many opt for a soft and then a medium? We are expecting a 1-stop. There's a long lost time here compared to other races on the Formula One calendar due to the speed of the circuit. It is the fastest circuit of the season as you look at Oscar Piastri, the lead McLaren, on the grid for the third time this season, and 101 years of motor racing magic at Monza. But of everything this track has seen, it's never seen a driver win.
And on tyres, everyone on medium except Hamilton, Magnussen and Bottas on hard.
Bottas, the guy, yeah, right there, from Azuya.
Yeah, you got Magnussen behind you. And then Bottas ahead on the right.
Let's swallow him.
We'll look back on it and go, we were there. We remember the moment when Max Verstappen, on his way to his third World Championship, won 10 in a row.
It would be something truly special. 304,000 have made their way through the gates and they are rising in the grandstands. This is a special place all the time when it holds a Formula One race. When Ferrari are in contention, it is something else. The track temperature is 42 degrees. The air temperature is 29. They rise to receive their pole sitter, Carlos Sainz, for the first time at the front of the field after one of the laps of his life, he claimed yesterday. Look at the heat haze as we go through. It is a slow fall.
So clutch position was on target. So it looks like Albon, he's on a used medium. We have a new to fit.
That is such disappointment. Tsunoda pulls off before we'd even taken the lights, and surely we will have to send them round again.
Failure, engine failure.
Copy.
Yeah, that is clearly bitterly disappointing. You put so much in to the weekend. Solid enough qualifying from Yuki, and absolutely great performance from Liam Lawson lining up behind him. Well, now he'll gain from the fact his teammate has had that engine failure and the yellow flags are out, and I can only imagine, as you said, they're going to have to abort the start.
Yeah, we are lining up. No word from race control at the moment. We are aborting things. Are they allowing everyone to form up before they show the yellow lights on the gantry? Tsunoda is off the side of the road. You would not normally. There you go. There is the aborted start. And that means that we will have 52 laps of the Italian Grand Prix. We abort before we get Lance Stroll into position.
Confirm. Correct, Joe.
Demise of the AlphaTauri. Here is the remaining AlphaTauri, Liam Lawson, who finds himself. And Lawson, intriguingly, did he take Tsunoda's grid spot there? Just seeing Lawson is ahead of both Hasses. Just interested to see what Lawson did there when he lined up on the grid.
Yeah, and it looks like the marshals, excuse me, are going to need a little bit of help to pull that beached car into the gap in the Armco barrier. And, well, Yuki could have probably done a better job of stopping closer to the gap.
Car is not turning really well in the right-hand corners. He's all good.
On data, everything is fine.
Copy, good.
Well, unfortunately for him, most of the corners are right-handers.
Wow, Charles Leclerc not happy with what he had underneath him there, but just reporting that. They're saying there's nothing on the data. The wind direction can swirl around here. It is a flat circuit. There is Gerhard.
Kev, if it's an aborted start, you need to have the pit limiter on.
Race for Ferrari here. And they are touring round once again, so we'll shorten the race by one lap. We go underneath the old banking there. Sainz was saying he was thinking about the start all morning, all evening, being cheered round once more. If he's still in that position by the time he gets out of Ascari on lap one, he'll have done the job.
Yeah, that will give him some comfort. As we look ahead, you can see Yuki-Tsunoda's car.
Car is not turning really well in the right-hand corners. He's all good.
On data, everything is fine.
Copy, good.
And you say he's been thinking about the start. He'll have been working on reaction times as well. They have the computer programs simulating what the random nature of the lights going out. No green light, of course, in Formula One. It's just as the red light dims.
This is on board with Yuki Tsunoda.
Okay, there are currently double yellows from turn 8 to turn 11. Sonoda is stopped on the right-hand side at the entry to turn 11. They may have cleared the car by the time we get there.
Fiorenze. I believe it's Fiorenze, is it correct?
Yeah, Faience.
Faience. Excuse me, my pronunciation. I knew it began with an F.
So we will surely allow everyone to form up again, and then we're going to have to abort it once more. Strange situation.
Okay, Max, we're expecting the race start to be aborted, so expecting you to switch your engine off and be a 5-minute delay.
So they could not get the car into a mode that they could move it. I've been watching Formula One a long time. David, you've been coming to racetracks a long time. I can't ever remember them having to abort a start quite like this ever before.
Well, it's the interest of safety, of course. Although that car looks well out of any potential danger for the drivers if there was to be an incident on that back straight running down into the final turn.
I had some engine push when I did the start. As I came off the throttle, the engine pushed a bit.
Copy. Having a look.
Formula One, where all the mechanics who'd taken all their equipment back to the garages now have to make their way in. It looks like they're not being allowed onto the grid.
Now, this is really strange. There's no official word from race control. I've never seen this before, ever. There's no start lights. We're all formed up on the grid. The majority of the mechanics are waiting in the pit lane for the word from race control to get to their cars. They're all desperate to get on.
Okay, Max, we're expecting the race start to be aborted, so expecting you to switch your engine off and be a 5-minute delay.
So race control have still not given permission for anyone to go onto the grid, so there could be an issue for a couple of mechanics who went over the pit wall there. That was Sergio Perez on the radio to Hugh Bird.
Well, tyres, of course, that they've chosen to start the Grand Prix. Everyone looking pretty much on the medium, as far as I can tell. First on the hard is Hamilton, followed by Bottas and Magnussen down towards the back. So medium majority choice as Yuki finds himself driving a truck. I think Alain Prost got fired from Ferrari for suggesting it was truck once back in the day. But there, that car has now been picked up. So this procedure will turn around pretty quickly. But of course, the tyres losing temperature, they've been out of the blankets, they're sitting there on the grid, and that's going to have an effect with the normal restart procedure.
What are they playing at down there? I'm so confused. You've got two Alfa Romeo mechanics who hopped over.
I believe they are.
Control about the procedure. That is a pretty unusual situation, and now we pour back onto the circuit and it basically we go back to the start procedure. Basically wind your clocks back 10 minutes.
So it's sort of in keeping with decisions that get made on track. There's always a bit of time delay.
They are moving the car, then we will go for standing start. We will do another formation loop, no? Yeah, correct.
So we'll do another formation lap, and then the race will be 2 laps shorter.
Yeah, copy. The mechanics cannot come to the grid.
I believe they are on their way.
Given by race control about the procedure we were going to get. We had the delay as a result. My information is that we will get the 5-minute signal, so we will go to the rule book. And we're just building up the tension a little bit more for one of the biggest expectations hanging over a Grand Prix all year.
The Sonoda's car's on the flatbed, but with an aborted start, we should be allowed back on the grid. And the restart of 5 minutes, but currently can't get access to the grid.
Minutes longer for.
Yeah, you see the little celebration of the years of racing here on that Ferrari. Yeah, well, what does this do for the drivers? Well, they've got to get themselves reset mentally to go through the whole procedure again. They're pretty used to being able to switch things on quickly, and I think that's one of the things that we see by the very nature of the fact that our grids are open and
They are moving the car, then we will go for standing start. We will do another formation loop, no? Yeah, correct.
this is a minor inconvenience for them and a nerve-wracking time for whoever your favourite car, favourite driver is. Then let's assume for the majority here it's the Ferrari. All it does is heighten the tension.
So there they are in front of Charles Leclerc's car, the driver from Monaco, and they are going back to the full procedure here.
So Charles, it's the same for everyone. Here we cannot go into the track, okay?
Nice. I was starting to wonder whether you were coming from Rome by walk. Here they are.
Pretty unlikely statistic, but it did happen to him as well in 2021. There's George Russell. He was very confident before the race, saying, expecting to go forward. He didn't say we're expecting the Ferrari's tyres to drop off, but his face did. And that is the expectation. The thing is, this track is gentle on tyres, and due to the high-speed nature, some of the circuit you described for as the car almost floating due to the high-speed nature of this place.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any blistering, so the degradation is pure, sort of micro-graining of the tyre and your ability to maintain the temperatures. We know that best at that this year, exploiting the Pirelli tyre, has been the Red Bull. Ferrari, as you mentioned, have been a bit inconsistent, but that was a genuinely solid performance qualifying and all the way through free practice, so maybe today is the day.
Tsunoda's car is on its way back to the pit lane now. We do not yet have the 5-minute warning.
We're going to keep the same tires?
Yes, we are happy for now.
Modern safety standards, you do not want a car potentially hitting a stationary car. These cars are designed to hit Armco barriers, tyre barriers, or Tech Pro. You don't want a different object hitting a different object. So that's why we've abandoned a couple of starts now and gone back to the grid formation with all of the team personnel there once again, with the expectation now that we will tick down another lap and we will see whether it's going to be the Ferraris or the Red Bull that comes out on top. We're also seeing whether Alex Albon can go forward or whether the degradation he was worried about on the Friday long runs for practice is the same. And then Piastri, Hamilton, Norris and Alonso, the rest of the top 10.
Just loving looking at those crowd shots. It's the nature of Formula One. The majority of T-shirts are Ferrari, but there was a couple of McLaren shirts in there, and then one individual Mercedes hat in amongst a sea of red and yellow. But it's all in very good nature.
Lando Norris, who was second in the Grand Prix here back in 2021. The information now is that things are clear on the back straight that leads us to the Parabolica, and as a result the signal has now been given. The formation lap will begin at 20 past the hour.
Okay, again, so on your side just chill, get a bit of a drink, try to relax as much as possible in a hot Formula 1 car in this weather. Sit tight and I'll keep you updated.
Well, not quite as impressive Mexican wave as we were seeing in Holland last week, but in fairness, as anyone listened to the qualifying show will know, you kind of get caught out by the wave coming along the grandstand, and as the teams now go through the normal procedure of removing generators and all the other equipment that's necessary to make sure that the tyres are maintained in temperature. Nice camera shot there from inside the cockpit of Max Verstappen, looking very calm.
So they take it all in their stride at this point. This is normal to them. Fernando Alonso hasn't nodded off, I promise. He's just getting himself back into the mental place that you need to be in to race the cars around here.
Yeah, but in fairness, at his age, he does have a nap in the afternoon, just not normally just before the start of a Grand Prix.
The oldest driver on the grid and the most experienced Formula One driver, 42 years of age. Fernando Alonso chasing podium number 8 today from his lowest ever starting position for Aston Martin. If you consider 10th is the worst performance of the season in qualifying, it shows you what a great run that team and driver has had.
It's absolutely been fantastic, and it's rejuvenated the fortunes of that team. They've delivered him a car which was certainly very competitive at the beginning of the year. Then it slightly faded for a few races, and McLaren took over that mantle, and then the weather conditions.
Joe, Chris here. Okay. We will need to relearn the gears. So do a practice start as normal, and then in turn 1, make sure you go down to first gear again to learn it.
Yeah, copy. During the practice session, it was really hard to learn first gear, but I'll try again. I'm sure it should be okay.
Yes, Joe, in the formation lap, we expect everyone to be very slow in turn 1 and 2.
Technical issue with the car as well, so he never got the confidence in the braking area.
And Oscar, the race distance will have been shortened by 2 laps because you've got another formation lap now.
But you can out-brake them, you can out mid-corner speed them, and that's where the drivers really focus to deliver the lap time.
The first time you drove here, DC, are you used to the speed? Because it's always been the fastest circuit of the year. In the old days, Hockenheim had long straights as well. But how quickly do you get used to the fact that the majority of this circuit, 75%, is full throttle?
You certainly feel the car moving around a lot more. You've got less downforce in the car, your top speed, consistently well over 200 miles.
The tyres cold, or are they held 10?
They haven't dropped too much, actually. I think that direct sunlight helps as well.
To spot where your braking points are. You're only really aware of the speed should you crash, and then you do realise you're doing 200 miles an hour rather than 100 miles an hour. But the drivers, I think, enjoy the different challenges. A little bit of a roller coaster, narrow track last weekend, very high speed flowing circuit here, very much a case of finger tipping it through some of the medium and high speed corners, and an opportunity for more points on the board.
Well, the formation lap will get underway in 3 minutes' time. It is going to be interesting to see what we get around here when we finally go racing. So many questions to be answered, and we have a new graphic then on the left-hand side that reads lap 1 of 51, because we have had that couple of laps chipped off the board as a result. And Max Verstappen looking on. He's been unfazed when he's been asked about taking the all-time consecutive win record. Ascari did it with an Indy 500 in between the early 50s. Ascari, the driver whose name is on the third chicane here, Sebastian Vettel, swept the remainder of the season in 2013, 9 in a row for him, and then there was a regulation change at the end of that campaign. And now Max Verstappen stands on the brink. No one has ever won double figures worth of Grand Prix in a row. He can change that day. Here's Sergio Perez, who's taking part in his second.
5 minutes ago, now we go 1 talk. And once the engine and power pit lane speed limiter on, we will do a bike learning, and then we can do the first gear start.
Okay, radio is still quite poor. Did you say scenario 1, SOC 6? Copy. Andrea, anything better I can do on formation lap, or all good?
So suggest more weaving. You can do more weaving to get the temperature.
Copy.
It was all winners.
And everybody on the same tyres as before.
Leclerc with a second Grand Prix victory scored at this circuit back in 2019. Max Verstappen in control of it last year, really drove brilliantly all the way through. He won the race from 7th on the grid and moved into a podium position by the end of lap 2. He was leading by the end of lap 12. He's trying to go back-to-back at a circuit where that isn't really the norm. You've got to tick back to Lewis Hamilton, who won in 2017 and 18 for the last back-to-back winner of the Italian Grand Prix. There is the man that we were discussing a couple of moments ago. He certainly enjoyed 2020 a lot more than he's enjoying Monza in 2023. Alpine have been struggling this weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why they've been lobbying FIA to try and get an engine equalization. They are behind that of Honda, Mercedes, Ferrari, and the clipping that they see, they just can't deploy as much energy and therefore deliver the performance on a track like this.
So everyone's on the medium tyre apart from Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas and Kevin Magnussen. They're beginning on the hard. It means that they'll have a slightly slower launch off the line by a couple of metres. Important for Hamilton to try and keep Norris and Alonso behind. And right, I hope you're ready for this one. We're going to do it all over again. And then hopefully at the end of this formation lap, we'll actually bring you the Italian Grand Prix after a slight delay, after Yuki Tsunoda failed to take the start for the second time in the last 3 Italian Grand Prix that he has been entered for. We are back on to our third formation lap of the day with the Ferrari and the Red Bull.
So I've lost gear sync, need to do that again.
Yep, that's correct, and loud and clear. So 1.5 minutes, we'll get into it. So sync the gears on the out lap, formation lap.
a sort of race start reaction, but Max Verstappen choosing to launch slightly ahead of Carlos Sainz, and psychologically he'll think, okay Carlos, there you've seen me come up your inside as we run towards the first corner. He's obviously dropped behind him to allow him to run the field round as the pole sitter, but it's all these little psychological games, and as the drivers make their way to the grid, they'll have a procedure for making sure they're getting the right level of temperature in their brakes. They'll have a predetermined amount of burnouts as they make their way to the grid. They'll be feeling the car. Now, they've got 100 kilograms or so of fuel on board, so it's a very different feeling from when they were last out in qualifying. So we'll be having a little lean on the tyre, lean on the car, so they can get an idea what it's going to feel like on the opening lap of this Grand Prix.
Carlos Sainz once again being roared around the 3.6.
Okay, Max, the procedure will be the same. However, I would like you to target between 12 and 15, no more than 15 on the rear left. You were up to 20.
Always had crowd on the left-hand side, crowd on the right-hand side, and if a Ferrari is on pole, which it is, they always rise at this moment. They've done it 3 times already, sharing the pole position. It's the bit at the end of the 50 laps that he's interested in now. Can Ferrari take their 20th home victory today?
Yeah, it's all about Formula 1 health.
Okay, mate, clutch drop spot on. Good job.
Quads being the biggest muscle in the body, they'll get a good old workout.
Would this affect any of the drivers? Would this affect any of the teams? This slightly delayed start, we've been delayed by 22 minutes now.
Well, just in terms of, well, look, we've been primed for this 20-odd minutes ago, and we're having to sort of build ourselves back up again. Unusual to have this on this particular Grand Prix, that car being recovered, but it's not the first time we've had delayed starts.
They are standing in the ground.
Okay, mate, let's do what we can to work those tyres on the way round, please.
Very slow taking up of your position for Fernando Alonso. And Carlos Sainz is already parked up. He is ready to run down. The distance from pole to the first braking zone is a long one here. There is a possibility, even if you don't get the launch off the line, to tuck into the slipstream and still attack, even if you're not making the move into the first chicane, to try and get your rival off the racing line.
Yeah, this is the only time they practice this kind of entry to the first corner, and it's in the race with fuel on board. Where do you brake? Who links first? And can they keep it clean through the chicane?
Here we go then. We are ready for the Italian Grand Prix that promises so much. The green flag is at the back. Here come the 5 red lights in Monza. And the Italian Grand Prix is go! With a good reaction time for 1 Ferrari, make that 2 Ferraris. Max Verstappen is breaking out of the slipstream. He's going to contend with Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz down to turn 1. Sainz is first, then it's Verstappen, then George Russell is on the inside, but Charles Leclerc has the power to hang on to 3rd position as they all make it through the first chicane. Sainz holds the lead.
Brilliant start, brilliant defence, and Charles Leclerc there still having to battle with George Russell as he go down to the second chicane. Looks like he's going to maintain that position. The door is a little bit open for Perez to have a look, but amazingly they seem to have got through the first couple of chicanes with no sign of any contact.
Piastri gained a place. He's the McLaren ahead of Alexander Albon in the Williams. Norris got past Hamilton. Medium tyres for Norris. Hamilton was on the hard, and then Hülkenberg is 3 places up in 10th position. Those in the top 5 stayed in the positions that they left the grid.
Yeah, it's all as it was in quali right now, and this is very much about feeling your race car. How much can I push this early in the Grand Prix? Carlos Sainz just opening up a little bit of a gap, and then we can see Verstappen wanted to pull into his slipstream there. George Russell is going to keep Charles Leclerc honest.
That's interesting that it was very, very tight. Charles Leclerc had a bit of a run on Verstappen. Second phase though, Verstappen was close in the braking zone. They are cheering the Ferraris in the grandstands. It was calm before the race. They're roaring now, and Sainz converts the pole position into the lead at the end of lap 1. That is a waft of a look from the Thai driver. There he is, car 23, Alexander Albon, who's trying to use that incredible straight line speed of the Williams to clear the slightly draggier McLaren ahead, and he's got a good run, DC.
He has indeed. He pulled a slightly different line off the first chicane. He's going to be forced to the outside in the braking zone.
Max 0.9 behind, 0.9.
If he pulls it off.
We go on board with Alex Albon, who gets up to 6th position with a super move.
That was brave, it was precise, absolutely brilliant from Alex.
So McLaren now are 7th and 8th. Oscar Piastri is back where he started in the Grand Prix. But does that give us a clue of what Alex Albon is capable of? Got close into the first chicane, made the move into the second. Looking forward to seeing that from the trackside cameras, because that would have been brave to go around the outside line. Piastri playing the long game. You can see Hamilton is trying to line up Lando Norris. There you go, there's Hamilton, car 44, we go on board with him now.
Yeah, amazingly, got Hülkenberg not far off the gearbox of Hamilton. They all want to stay within that 1 second, so when we get DRS activated, then they have a chance to, as Hamilton goes deep into the final corner, will that compromise his run? And let's see if that allowed Hülkenberg to get a slipstream.
I know there's a Ferrari in first and a Ferrari in third, but the atmosphere here is extraordinary.
Car ahead, Sargent. Car behind Joe.
It's the last lap on lap 3. We have a long way to go. We have lots to be decided. Crucially, Max Verstappen has kept car signs within a second. We will get DRS enabled this time around. We go back to the start.
So as the lights went out, it was all fairly even Stevens, and then Max Verstappen in the second phase looked like he pulled up onto the gearbox of Carlos Sainz. He wanted to go on that outside line, but of course conscious of Charles Leclerc, leaving a little wider turn-in to that first part of the chicane, just to allow for Charles to potentially lock up, which he did do, and then that compromised as we go on board with Max Verstappen. You can see his second phase of the start was better than Carlos's. Carlos, like he's been all weekend, aggressive in his defence, saying, right, I'm on the inside, if you want it, you're going to have to come round the outside, which did actually almost happen, if you remember, a couple of years ago with Lewis Hamilton, but they ended up on top of each other.
This is on board with Pierre Gasly, the driver who started in 17th position and is still there.
Still 1 second, 1.0.
Ahead of us, and there is Logan Sargent taking the wide route through, as they were very well behaved compared to some of the starts that we've seen down at the first turn. We return to trackside pictures of the Italian Grand Prix, lap 4 of 51. Max Verstappen with DRS, fast lap of the Grand Prix, 0.4 of a second away.
Yeah, DRS, of course, will enable him to do a faster lap time, much less drag and a slipstream from Carlos, who's having to do all the work on his own. Charles Leclerc was just on the second behind Verstappen. He would have got DRS, but it looks like he's just not quite close enough to make any use of that, and Max is definitely hustling to try and get past Sainz.
So how aggressive is Sainz going to be here? Because if he can force any sort of battle with Verstappen, he brings his teammate back into play. Charles Leclerc is clinging on to the coattails of the World Championship leader, the man who is surely on his 3rd world title. That is the standard that they all look at. For the drivers, they're looking at...
Suggest entry +1. Entry confirmed. DRS enabled. Special 2 available for turns 6 and 7.
Bit of propaganda from the cockpit there. He knows well that that will be broadcast, and there'll be a Ferrari engineer or a group of engineers going, oh, bugger.
It's not good news. If you are wearing Ferrari red, it is trouble. And you can see once again, he gets to 0.4 of a second. The Red Bull team know they can play the long game here. Sainz will try and protect the lead for as long as possible. If they start battling, it changes it entirely. We haven't really seen Max Verstappen have to do much wheel-to-wheel racing this year because he's been in unbelievable form. I think we might be about to see a bit. Does Sainz try and back Verstappen into the second Ferrari to just make it a 3-car scrap?
Yeah, it looks like Verstappen putting a bit of pressure on Sainz. Leclerc just comfortably sitting there watching that. It's putting some pressure on Russell. Albon's dropped back a little bit, having got that nice pass on Piastri. And Hamilton not able to do anything. The Mercedes-powered Mercedes against the McLaren, also powered by Mercedes, they're sort of neutralising each other out.
There are 2 DRS zones around this racetrack. This isn't one of them. This is just pure performance here the DRS zones down the main straight and down to the Ascari chicane. Turns 8, 9 and 10 at this circuit. You can see how efficient that Red Bull is. That was
Just check front and left brake temps. I think your tear off may have got him.
We're looking. Brakes look okay currently.
Off the back of Sainz. Well, he's going to have DRS. He'll start to gain massively in this phase. Is he brave enough to have a go?
He's going to be sent the long way round by Carlos Sainz, who is desperate to hang on to the lead of the Grand Prix, and that is an elbow thrown by the Ferrari. Would Sainz be aggressive was the question. There's your answer.
Well, that was reminiscent of what Verstappen and Hamilton did a few years ago, and as we know, on that occasion, Max didn't back out of it. He was squeezed.
So gap to Esteban is 0.4, and everyone in a DRS train up to Albon in P6.
Want to get the pass on. Sainz covers the inside beautifully. Max there slightly compromised the braking. Sainz left enough room for him to try and wiggle his way around the outside, but he wasn't carrying momentum.
Mr. Naughty. There's almost a smile in that radio from Verstappen. These are the first laps that Carlos Sainz has led all year long.
And easy braking energies into turn 1. Gap to Russell behind 1.7.
And well, it would have been a soft pass had he got round the outside there.
Good move.
Sainz already knows that it was strong defence. He's always been good at it. Now, the more the top two fight, the more this man, Charles Leclerc, comes into play. If you don't have the performance, it's all about the racecraft. The cars thunder over the line once again. The crowd rise in the grandstand once again. Can Verstappen get a move? Does he try something different this time? Not close enough. You're looking at the top three for the Italian Grand Prix, and they're separated by a second across the line.
When was the last time Max Verstappen was the meat in the sandwich? Squeezed there between two Ferraris.
Well, he had to make a move on Lando Norris at the British Grand Prix. The last time a Red Bull wasn't leading, by the way, back in Austria before this Grand Prix. But it's an unusual feeling in this dominating season for the Dutch driver. But he knows we've got the pace here.
Good move.
Determination is giving us a great Italian Grand Prix at the start. No one is shaping for the move really further back. Hamilton's within the DRS of Norris, just to keep you updated on everyone, but we're going through the Ascari chicane now. Turns 8, 9 and 10, and on this part of the circuit you really do see the efficiency that the Red Bull has through Ascari brings him super close to the Parabolica.
Yeah, this is where he closes the gap down, and it's all really a case of how tight he is through the middle of that Parabolica, the final corner. And, well, he's definitely able to pull away a little bit from Charles, who was closer on the entry. DRS will pop open once again, but further away than he has been.
So, Sainz can see Verstappen gaining with every metre, but that defence was close. Look further back. Sergio Perez is all over the back of George Russell. Russell defends as well. It is a high-speed track, but as a result, they're running less wing. As a result, the slipstream effect is less, and the driver has to...
Just for info, the fuel numbers on the dash are not correct, so don't worry, we'll keep you updated.
There's the lead, then second, then third, then there's Russell and Perez battling over fourth place.
Yeah, Russell's staying in touch with Leclerc. He's only 1.6 behind. Any battling he does here with Perez is going to see him lose that distant toe. He's out of DRS. It's Perez sliding the rear through the first Lesmo. And George showing good pace through those two corners. And in fairness, the Mercedes was only...
I suggest EB 10 or 11 to help rear temps.
That's it was a racing mile, isn't it? But in actual fact, the performance of that car has improved significantly since the beginning of the year.
So Perez chasing down Russell for fourth. This is the battle for the lead, though, with Max Verstappen chasing 10 Grand Prix victories in a row. He's looking to win his 47th Grand Prix today, and it looks good this time. You can see he's closing with every metre that we run. Wonderful noise down the main straight, getting...
And tyre temperatures are stable. We're happy with what you're doing.
And Verstappen stays calm. He'll get a great run out of the first chicane.
Yeah, Carlos very cleverly parking the car and the braking right in the middle. So it compromises the ability for Max to then lunge it down the inside.
And George suggests more management 6, turn 6.
If you see, but I got a car right way.
That's George Russell chatting to his engineer quite forthrightly.
I'm not sure why they bleeped out rear. I'm sure that's what he was saying.
The top three are glued together by a second, and then Russell is trying to defend from the brilliant Red Bull design of this year. They have won every single race so far in 2023. 2 of them have belonged to Sergio Perez. But since April the 30th this year, the only winner in Formula One has been that man. Car number 1, the man who claimed his 3rd home victory in a row last time out. Ferrari want victory at home though, and he is mighty through Ascari. The run begins. Can Sainz keep the lead? We're about to head onto lap 10.
I just love that rear camera shot. The car snaking their way out of that iconic Ascari chicane. Mode 8.
And Verstappen, he's doing everything he can. They're switching the modes. He's trying to scare Sainz in the braking zone. Sainz, a very experienced competitor. He celebrated his 29th birthday on Friday. He'll be celebrating every lap that he can stay in the lead.
And George suggests more management 6, turn 6.
If you see, but I got a car right way.
Mode 8 and then Max's reaction, it would be suggesting to me that they're pulling back a little bit his engine, and Max saying, well, they're quick in a straight line. If you pull me back, that's going to make it really difficult to try and get the pass done. So they're relying on the fact that Carlos is absolutely on the edge of rear adhesion, and eventually that might lead to a mistake.
Well, the qualifying session.
Mode 8.
Pole at a circuit where it is nigh on impossible to overtake. He missed out by less than a tenth of a second, and then when the opportunity came in the rain, Aston Martin did not fit the right tyres this day. This, as we go further and further in, is the biggest test of Red Bull and Max Verstappen's season. All the conditions chucked at him last week in Zandvoort, he passed the test. Ferrari are making him work for it.
Yeah, and just to put you in the cockpit, for Carlos Sainz especially.
And did mid +1, 12 the balance, did mid +1, 0.6 behind.
On to the back of Russell. Well, he's having to go around the outside, and actually you can tell there that he braked a bit too early, because, you know, Russell managed to brake later on the narrower line and still make the corner. But coming back to Carlos Sainz, he's having to fingertip that car through Ascari. If he makes a mistake, he knows he's going to lose the lead. Likewise, Parabolica. So I think he's doing a brilliant job out front.
This is Pierre Gasly coming in for his stop, going on to the hard tyres. Gasly, who was down there in 17th position, having a torrid time of it after wonderful result last time out at Zandvoort when he was on the podium in a Formula One Grand Prix for the first time since 2021, and for the first time with his new team, who will be delighted to get out of Monza. It has not been their weekend. Spanish driver, the man from Madrid, continues to lead into Ascari. Alberto Ascari, who set a scorching pace in the early 50s, won 9 Formula One Grand Prix in a row between a couple of years, back to back to back, but there was an Indy 500 that counted for the World Championship in between there, and they make their way through a corner where Max Verstappen is a lot happier. He's always within 0.4 of a second. Sainz will be delighted with this opening stint of the Grand Prix.
Yeah, he's been flawless. I haven't seen any under rotation. He's managed defending into the first corner and then doing so at the start, and at the opportunity that Max had to try and get it around the outside. As here comes Perez once again. George Russell consistently out-braking Perez on the shallow line. He's got to be a lot braver.
Kev, we're thinking a big change on front wing flap. Back to start of formation laps to grid. Do you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Copy.
The Mercedes of George Russell, who was struggling a little bit for qualifying pace before the summer break, had the 3 weeks off, has come back, and he has been the lead Mercedes on the grid for both of those Grand Prix. This was Pierre Gasly coming into the pits. We are currently on lap 12, and that was a bit of a hit for the man on the front jack.
Yeah, it took him a while to get some purchase on the nose and get the car in the air. Maybe some rubber in the brake ducts. The smoke there coming as we go on board. Fernando Alonso, front flap bouncing around in the turbulent air. And he gets the pass done on the Haas of Hulkenberg.
So there's not a lot of overtaking going on in the Italian Grand Prix, but there's a lot of tension. You can see the job that Sainz is doing by the fact that Charles Leclerc has dropped back now, 1.4 seconds away. Let's bring you the graphic on the right-hand side.
Okay, Lando, our goal here is reach tire lap, potentially plan B tire lap, so thinking on extending. Behind Hamilton, Alonso is 4 seconds behind, and we are opening a gap with him, and he's holding a train of cars.
Yeah, I know, but I can't save that much because Hamilton's catching a lot. He's a lot quicker at this point, so I'm trying to pick up the pace.
As brave on the brakes.
Undercut will be very powerful, I think.
Copy that, George.
Yep, so George then confirming that what we've heard.
How is the situation behind Max?
It's a gap of 2.5 to Russell P4, and Russell up in 27.2 is slowing Checo down.
Significantly quicker. And that's something that's in the armoury of Ferrari. Charles Leclerc is close enough that if Red Bull feel at all vulnerable, then he'll go for an early stop and almost forcing Verstappen's hand to have to try and cover it.
The earliest estimation for when you would want to come in for a one stop, and we are only expecting one stop in the Italian Grand Prix, was lap 20.
Balance is tricky, 6-7, very understeery, but the rest is really limited. So not great.
Understood, Nico.
One car they can use tactically, one car that holds the lead. This is a good run though, DC.
It is, but just a little bit of understeer through the middle of the corner means that by the time he builds momentum with the DRS, will he go? Well, Carlos is going defensive again, doing it early and also then covering off the middle of the track. So that's taking away any confidence for Max to lunge it.
Undercut will be very powerful, I think.
Copy that, George.
We'll be arguing, well, we both went off. Russell will say he overtook me off the racetrack.
Yeah, we need to just catch that a bit earlier to see where did the pass actually happen. Did it happen and then he went off? But you're absolutely right. If George, well, he's let him back in front.
So he's erred on the side of caution, doesn't want an investigation from race control. Let's listen in.
He pushed me off.
That was fairly predictable on the radio. Understandable, though. You're scrubbing off so much speed from over 200 miles per hour. Charles Leclerc beginning to push on. Let's review what happened down to turn 1.
Okay, so more aggressive on the braking this time. Goes to turn... Well, okay. He's calling it, I get pushed off. I'm not sure he was ever going to slow down for that corner. Let's see from this camera angle. Yep, locks up and runs right. Now, Checo, good attempt to get the referee on side, but you were never making the apex.
He knows we've got replays, right?
He forgot in the heat of the moment.
This has been an engrossing Italian Grand Prix so far.
Okay, mate, we think this is a thermal tyre effect. Can we increase lift and coast, please? And management out of turn 5. Let's keep with it for now, plan A.
A look in the mirror, Verstappen getting close, and he just immediately commits to the racing line. There's the first luck up we have seen from the race leader. That, a visual example of the pressure that he's under, and look at the momentum that Verstappen has got coming out of the first chicane, going through Curva Grande. Side by side they run for the lead of the Grand Prix, and the Ferrari is inching back ahead, centimetres between the leading pair in the Italian Grand Prix and Max Verstappen.
He pushed me off.
Sainz fights back, but there's nothing he can do, and the man who's chasing a perfect 10 is P1.
Yeah, he was flawless up until that point, and then he's been using those tyres harder on the Ferrari. The mistake came, and then crucially for Max, he was able to get on the left side of Carlos Sainz, giving him the inside into the chicane. And, well, the disappointment on the Ferrari mechanics, understandable. But on lap 15, there's still a lot of Grand Prix race.
Just massive entry oversteer into the high speed.
He was very importantly fair as well into the second chicane. And great racing as the crowd continue to cheer Verstappen on for his moment of history.
I'm just a lot quicker. I was going to pick up the pace.
Okay, Lando, we are looking at that.
Yeah, Lando Norris running 0.7 behind Piastri. He's been consistently in that DRS.
One lap later, and there's other... Whoa! This time, Perez...
Okay, let's keep pushing, keep pushing.
To the inside, that's 4th place.
using even more of the racetrack. The whole circuit here, very wide to the inside of the actual racetrack, and a pit lane exit. Gets enough of his car down the inside. Well, it was a brave defence from George. He's in the slipstream, but I think he realises that's a faster car, and he would be well advised to just try and follow it right now and give himself a bit of a breathing space to Piastri behind.
Has Sainz burned through his tyres trying to run at Red Bull pace? Because
I'm just a lot quicker. I also need to pick up the pace.
Okay, Lando, we are looking at that.
The electrical energy available coming off the first chicane, then you can see the slippery Ferrari starts to outperform him as the speed builds, but in the end he had the inside line compromised as he went through the chicane, but no real chance. And that little rear camera view of the under rotation of Sainz, and as a driver, the minute you lock up into the first one, you know what's coming as you come out of the second one. And
our sector 2 is good. We lost a 10th.5 in sector 1 and the rest in sector 3, so it's straight line speed again, obviously.
1.5 seconds behind the Red Bull. Sainz, then Leclerc. They are getting close to the one-stop window. Will they go aggressive? That option to use Charles Leclerc expires. They were so close to being able to use him tactically. It'll be interesting to see as well how quickly Perez can get up to the back of the Ferraris, which was our expectation heading into the race. Sometimes the simulations do not bear.
And just keep your eye on that front left oxidation. Norris at 27.8.
Whilst we were watching the change of lead, saying that I'm faster than Piastri, but the team not intervening at the moment. Norris 7/10 of a second away. So we look at the Ferrari team principal, Fred Vasseur, who must have been impressed with the first 14 laps. Oh, Sainz's Grand Prix, but you can see how little tyre he has left.
yeah, he's in a bit of trouble now with the tyres on that car. Charles Leclerc, it's almost down to a situation where as a team, do they let Leclerc go? I don't think he's...
Yes, but let's make use of the free air now. We want to pull away from Alonso doing 26.9. So you're in the window for safety car and virtual safety car.
To be as fast as possible, and right now the Ferraris are racing each other.
Ferraris are racing each other. I wonder if Charles Leclerc will get on the radio, because remember, they're both racing Sergio Perez, who is now in free air for the first time in a long time. He's 2.5 seconds away from the back of the Ferrari.
Carlos is taking it between the rears.
Understood.
Yeah, this is when Ferrari need to be decisive. They can let Charles go. If he doesn't make headway, then they can always readdress it with Carlos later.
That would be the option for the Scuderia. Be interesting to see whether they swap the cars at this point, or whether they're going to have a battle themselves. If they fight themselves, they'll give Sergio Perez second place in the Grand Prix on the evidence of the speed of the RB19. There it is in the background. Russell not being dropped a huge amount. He's managed to stay within DRS.
Okay, so last lap they were 27.2s. Yep, cars ahead. Still all clear on our pit window behind.
First mistake he made, and it was punished by Max Verstappen, who's now been built already a 3.4 second lead.
Yeah, Max is running a second a lap quicker. 26.7 versus 27.7. So highlighting the difference between being able to have a car switch tyres on for a single lap and then a car that's got the consistency to deliver performance over multiple laps.
And tyre temperatures are stable. We are happy with management.
Wants to be moved past Oscar Piastri. Charles Leclerc was beginning to hint at a suggestion of being moved past Carlos Sainz with the information that the tyres had gone, and the inevitable happening quite late into the race by Formula 1 2023 standards. Max Verstappen made to work for it, but eventually making the pass for the lead. We have had one retirement. Yuki Tsunoda did not take start.
Yeah, all the time that Leclerc and Sainz are tripping over each other, then that's allowing Perez, who's 7/10 of a second a lap quicker than the two of them, to bring that gap down. It's actually quite a solid recovery from an average qualifying from Perez, not his worst, but certainly not right there in the battle for pole position.
We're looking at the McLarens. Oscar Piastri yesterday out-qualifying Lando Norris for only the third time since they became teammates. The highlight of Oscar Piastri's rookie season was that second-place finish in the sprint in Belgium. McLaren, a team transformed since they updated that car. First of all, for Lando Norris at Austria, and then for both drivers at Silverstone, and then both drivers completely having the update by the time they got to Budapest. They have been vaulted back to the front of the field, but this circuit, although they have improved that rear wing, it's still a very draggy car of aerodynamic efficiency. Carlos Sainz has taken that Pirelli rubber as far as he can. He's been called in, which releases Charles Leclerc, and whilst that happened, Perez is right with. Russell is in as...
Yeah, understood.
Yeah, Ferrari, that timing, they weren't affected by Mercedes coming in there. Sometimes you can find that the car is all service, but they can't release it because another car is in the pit lane. That wasn't the case there. Let's see what the pit lane time is. Sainz makes his way back on track just behind Bottas, who was running in 10th place.
So this is Perez, who continues round once again.
Braking metrics are good. Gap to Leclerc, 1.8, to Russell, 1.5.
The Ferrari using more of the road, requiring more animation behind the steering wheel from their drivers. This has been an Achilles heel for the Italian team all year long. They've just got through the rubber quicker. They're not just the Red Bulls that they're racing, but most teams out there.
Yeah, the only common part really between all of the teams is the tyres, of course, and assuming they're running on the same compound as a set of hards are brought forward.
Let me know for flap.
Find one now.
Copy. Pit confirm and box.
Been called in. Verstappen has been called in as well. And Perez, who is always good at making that tyre last a little bit longer, is going to do so again. He's going to try another lap. He's going to try the O-cut on a day where we know the undercut is very, very powerful. That is Verstappen out with a 2.5-second stop. Here is Charles Leclerc, who pitted from what was, when we began this run, third position. Where is he in comparison to his teammate who's coming out of the Paraguay now?
Bottas lap time 27.7, still out on hard.
Charles Leclerc, which makes sense, so you don't get boxed in behind him. If they did two good pit stops.
The two Scala Ferraris will be side by side down to turn one. More speed though for Carlos Sainz, who's just going to get out ahead of his teammate, and that outlap was so important for the Spanish driver. And the Ferraris put on a show here at Monza. Sainz led the opening laps of the Grand Prix. He's beaten his teammate out onto the racetrack. Charles Leclerc will try and bring the tyres into full operating temperature.
So mode box, and box this lap box.
Okay, right, it's on. It's on. That was very close. Charles will be feeling that he was squeezed a little bit out onto that curb, and in fact, if the curb wasn't there, then he would have been onto the grass there as Carlos was focusing on the apex of the chicane. And, well, Charles will be a little bit frustrated by that. And is this really... Well, let's just try and see the bigger picture. Are Ferrari really in the battle with Red Bull? Assuming they're not, maybe they're better keeping their powder dry and have both the drivers feel they can fight equally.
Well, Perez went one lap longer on a day where the overcut isn't meant to work. The scrapping Ferrari drivers, had they just presented second place in the Grand Prix to Sergio Perez, the man who hasn't been on the podium here since 2012. And that was a result, second place that day, that was caused by being great and gentle and clever on the Pirelli rubber. Out of the pits comes Perez, and both Ferraris get past, so their scrap didn't cost them. Charles Leclerc thinking about a late move to the inside. This one...
Box to overtake Ocon. Box to overtake Ocon.
Tyres 2 laps younger than Sainz, a lap younger than Charles Leclerc. It's definitely costing them time, battling each other, but maybe they're just accepting the bigger picture that they expect Perez, over the length of what's left in this Grand Prix, the faster car, to find his way through.
It's going to be a little bit of an interesting situation with Max Verstappen in a minute, because as you can see, Oscar Piastri hasn't made a stop, Lando Norris hasn't made a stop, neither does this man, who...
Fernando is coming in, Max.
But Lewis Hamilton has DRS, as does Lando Norris, so is Max Verstappen going to be able... I tell you what, Is he going to be able to just roar through on much younger hard tyres with the speed of that Red Bull, or could it be a DRS train for the world champion to deal with?
Well, I think thankfully for him, they're Mercedes-powered cars, and all three of them are a little bit draggy. So the Red Bull should have an advantage, even if it is a DRS train.
So Verstappen closing in, and Norris there to vault him ahead of his teammate, having been called in first. He is the lead driver in the championship for McLaren, but he was not the lead driver on the grid. So Piastri is sent round once again. Hamilton is a second away. The Ferraris continue to be glued to each other, and now Sergio Perez has joined this battle as well. It's going to be an entertaining scrap here. Just reference for you, the progress for Red Bull. Sainz 5.3 seconds behind.
Yeah, you can calculate about 1 second time lost per car. Copy, understood. A good job. We've built a 4.5 second gap to Ocon behind now.
Full Hamilton in front of him. Piastri momentarily leading this Grand Prix. Quite a moment, even if it's unlikely he's going to convert that into a victory. It's still nice to come round to see Piastri P1.
It is very much a impressive rookie season from the Australian driver. So this is George Russell. It's under investigation between Russell and Ocon for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. And that's Russell coming out of the pits. The tyre's not fully in the temperature window. And did he overtake by going over the road? He certainly didn't give the place back if he did. And race control looking at that one at the moment.
Yeah, well, the fact that the Alpine made the apex, then that's the answer to that question is George Russell will have to give the position back.
He's not in a position to do that, though, David. He's miles ahead now of Ocon, who's only coming out of the Parabolica.
Okay, mate, so for now we think we're racing a group of cars on a two-stop, which are about 10 seconds behind. Let's keep going for now, please. Albon 1.9 behind.
Copy, steering getting heavy on high braking.
Okay, mate, noted.
4, done 8.
Okay, understood. Yeah, we're looking into that now.
Between the McLarens at Monza, but it was Norris who got by.
Thankfully, it was just a little bit of contact. Don't see any damage to the front wing as we see.
Okay, mate, on our grip stats, we see rear tyres stable, possibly improvement to be expected in the next few laps. Albon just behind now.
Seriously, and that's a 5-second penalty for that moment. How about this between the two teammates?
Yeah, that was tight, wasn't it? You've got to say, Lando gave him plenty of space. Oscar naturally trying to use that space, and then they met in the middle. That would have been a heart-in-the-mouth moment for Zach Brown.
Yeah, those two much closer matched in terms of pace than the previous pairing of Ricciardo and Norris. And this is Lewis Hamilton up against Max Verstappen at Monza once again in Formula One. Max Verstappen retakes the lead on track. The newer hard tyres compared to the race-old tyres for Lewis Hamilton. No contest between these two. We hope they'll be rejoined in battle at some point in Formula One history. Lewis Hamilton signing up for 2 more years at Mercedes at the start of the Grand Prix weekend.
Yeah, no contest between the two on this day in history, and there's also no love lost between those two, given their titanic.
So McLaren's ahead have just hit each other. Piastri's the car in front of you, 4 seconds on his outlap.
He's never really had a quick teammate, unlike me. In the end, though, it really doesn't matter who your teammate is. It matters who your main competitor is. And at that point of his first title, it was definitely Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen who were the main rivals.
Yeah, interesting comments in the week. Always interesting to hear what the drivers think. Loving that look.
Good job, still in the pit window. Traction 5, last 10% still an issue.
I think they'll have a look, and then I think they'll get on with their afternoon in race control. It didn't affect anyone's day out there. It is Norris ahead of Piastri. They are separated on the racetrack by 1.2 seconds at the moment, 1.1 seconds to be exact now, as it comes down, and Piastri trying to get back in to DRS range. Hamilton running a long stint here on the hard tyre. Going to pay him back later on when he runs the medium. You must use 2 compounds, and the Ferraris was...
They just really bad. I'm trying my best at the moment.
Copy, Joe.
They're chasing their 6th 1-2 of the year, the team in the lead at the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, with got Charles Leclerc covering off the middle of the track there, and well, Checo either playing the long game or just still not quite as confident to sort of send it down the inside and let it get sorted out later. I guess it's understandable that he's been a bit nervous after several average races. On board with Piastri, as they run down into the first chicane, we're going to see Lando Norris on the outside. Lando leaves him space, and then you can see that contact of the tyres. Very lucky, no damage done to his front wing.
That could have been race ending for McLaren. In the end, it's just a fantastic slow-mo of the teammates battling into the Rettifilo. Nervy moment for all those sitting in papaya on the pit wall.
Now, because you're a cunning linguist, then you can call it the, whatever you just said. I just call it the first chicane.
Alright, so going on to the hard tyre, going one turn down on the front wing. Keep us informed about column torque on the exit, please.
It's not the torque, it's locking. If a tooth of the gearing is broken, you know what I mean?
Okay, understood, yeah. We're looking at it, we do see something in data. Let us know if it gets worse, please. Magnussen will come out just in front on pit exit.
The Ferrari's information is helping them at the moment, but they're clearly using the tyres a lot here. And Perez just has to bide his time. That's what we saw in the first stint of the Grand Prix. It came back to Max Verstappen. Verstappen, who's just nursing the gap there. It's 4.6 seconds to Carlos Sainz, who's effectively P2. Hamilton taking the hard tyre a lot further. We'll see how long he wants to go on that tyre. That's 24 seconds that you lose on average in the pits at Monza.
Yeah, that's going to bring him out behind Piastri, just in front of Alonso, but he's running slower. 27.4 is his pace, and Alonso running on 26.
So Sainz in front is catching Hamilton, still Hamilton with the first set.
Lose the position to Alonso by the time he does his pit stop, and then he'll halt as he's about to lose to Leclerc as well. He's getting mugged, isn't he, all the way on the back end of this racetrack. Running out of tyres, just doesn't have the pace.
Doesn't need to fight Charles Leclerc, doesn't fight Charles Leclerc. Both Ferraris go by in a couple of corners. Sainz took the move into Ascari. It was Leclerc getting by into the final corner on the racetrack, the Parabolica, and Hamilton says that's enough on the
pace of the main group of cars ahead of you is around 27.2 now.
He will hope to take him to the end of the Italian Grand Prix. A tough weekend for a driver who was happy with the balance of the car in the first practice session. Then he said the setup change just didn't suit him on Friday, and he's never recovered the feel around a circuit where he's 5 times an Italian Grand Prix winner. That's Fernando Alonso in the green Aston Martin, taking the place away. Hamilton will hope that the advantage of tyre compound and tyre life will bring him back into play.
Okay, good job on the lift and coast. We like torque 11, but I'll leave you alone.
More pace with those fresher tyres, also the softer compound. He's in what looks to me DRS position on Alonso as well, so he needs to really capitalise as quickly as possible before he starts losing performance in the tyres.
It's now 5.5 seconds for the lead of the race. Sainz, he moved up to second place at that corner. 1 lap ago. And it's Verstappen, then Sainz, then Leclerc, then Perez, Russell with that 5-second penalty.
Lando car ahead. Albon is struggling a lot with the rear end. He's doing 27 zeros.
The frustration of the weekend being reported to Pete Bonington on the radio. Max Verstappen, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He's on for 26 more points in the World Championship if it stays like this. And we're going to be seeing a lot of these three, you would imagine. Only 2 of them can join Verstappen on the podium. It would be a remarkable battle for the win if anything befell our World Championship leader and man in the lead again in Formula 1 as he chases 10 Grand Prix victories in a row, and he'll be ticking off the time as we go. We look through now to see further back. So Russell has that penalty. Albon is coming under attack. Oh, and he's not the only one, because Lewis Hamilton, with the fresher tyre, gets past his old sparring partner, Fernando Alonso, and Hamilton improves to 9th place.
Yeah, that would have been a DRS pass down into the first chicane. It doesn't look like Fernando has got the pace to want to come back at him.
0.6 faster than Gasly, so just stay in this rhythm behind Bottas. You're closing up soon.
Sniff, like we saw last time out at Zandvoort. He comes alive. He knows today it's not one of those days, and Hamilton taking the place. Alex Albon is under serious pressure from both McLarens, but this time Mercedes got past the Aston Martin.
Yeah, Fernando didn't really overly defend the inside, accepting his fate, accepting the pace. Oh, well, the pace difference between the cars. Aston never expected to be strong on this racetrack, so if they can come away with some points, they'll be happy. They expect to be back on form in Singapore.
Sergio Perez with another great run, but with a Scott Ferrari directly ahead of him that still has DRS, and he just ran to the inside of the corner, but has no chance to get past. Once again, the frustration will be building. Took Max Verstappen a long time to force the error from Sainz. You can see Perez does have greater speed. Now, this is the battle between the McLaren and the Williams. Lando Norris trying to forge the long way round there. That route will be blocked by the top driver ahead, Alex Albon.
So 1.5, keep the head down. You're doing a good job. Keep the head down. Clean laps, clean laps.
Yeah, but it's getting quite tricky on tracks from both speed. And reason to front left and 6-7.
Copy on tires, copy on tires. Confirm turn 5 is difficult.
Prix, if they can avoid running into each other.
Yeah, I think they'll have learned their lesson from that contact. And Alex Albon defends the inside. Small lock up there from Lando Norris. It shouldn't have done any damage to the tyre in terms of flat spotting. But Oscar...
So, Fernando, our race will be at the end. Albon is ahead of the McLarens, and he's a bit slow, holding them up at the moment.
Around, it's 9/10 of a second. It's very nearly over a second. If he loses DRS, it will be a slam dunk pass to Sergio Perez. Does the rear wing element open? Doesn't look like it is. And Perez has his best chance at the Grand Prix so far to improve to the podium. Does give you the advantage there once again. Late braking into the first chicane protects the podium for Charles Leclerc.
Checo Perez just hasn't looked strong. He'll have the chance to come back again on the run down to the second chicane, looking for that outside line. But we know the Ferrari's quick in a straight line, pops back into the slipstream, forced to go to the outside.
Oh, and a bit of dust kicked up as Leclerc defends the position for all he's worth, but this is surely a matter of time now.
Yeah, well, cue Checo getting on the radio and saying he squeezed me off the track, and in fairness, on that occasion, there didn't appear to be enough room for him, but the question is, did he actually get enough of his car alongside? It looks like he...
And watch the rear's exit of turn 5 should help entry of turn 6.
Same tactics that won Charles Leclerc this Grand Prix in 2019, though. He knows how to defend into that corner. They will have a look. I'd like to see it on board from Perez, because it's quite tight there. Maybe he can make the whole discussion redundant this time around.
She's not giving any speed.
How fast are you going to go?
Now, I think the prediction's coming true in the next couple of meters as they go past the iconic timing tower on the left-hand side.
We can't do this for 20 laps.
Red Bull out of the slipstream, building up to 200 miles an hour and taking third place in the Grand Prix. Leclerc was thinking about the late lunch, wasn't able to do so. A lot of confidence under braking, but one Ferrari slips off the podium.
Yeah, it does look like that. It looks like the Ferrari has good straight line braking, but it's when they lean on the car and start building lateral load, that's where the Red Bull has the advantage.
Perez will set after. Carlos Sainz ahead.
So we think Hülkenberg ahead is starting to struggle with the fronts. And Bottas is the car behind, 1.7 second gap. And he is on used mediums.
Where McLaren's winning run came to an end. Red Bull's winning run looks like it's continuing. And Perez knows the next couple of laps be a 1-2 celebration for the team as the Mexican driver tries to step on the Italian Grand Prix podium for the first time since 2012. He was in the top 3 a couple of years ago, got a 5-second penalty. Russell has got a 5-second margin.
She's not giving any speed.
How fast are you going to go?
Immaculate in the braking zones. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri waiting for the first hint of an error, and Lewis Hamilton will be hoping to make up the 4 seconds between these three.
Yeah, it's sort of a stalemate right now. Alex Albon slippery enough in a straight line. Lando Norris, although within that DRS zone, it's just too draggy, the McLaren, even with the DRS wide open.
So rear left limitation on the last set. So anything you can do to work the front axle?
Try your best.
Well, the reassurance offered on the radio, but Sainz is already worried about the degradation of the hard tyre. So don't worry about Perez moving past here. Worry, if you're a Ferrari fan, about cars not having to make another pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I fully appreciate that they do all their communication in a foreign language to them, but you can see a comedy sketch when the engineer says, try your best, and then Carlos comes back and goes, oh, there's an idea. I hadn't thought of that one.
There's a 13-time Grand Prix winner speaking to you wherever you are watching this one, and you've been on the end of a couple of radio messages like that in your time. Sometimes there's nothing you can do but offer a reassurance, and the driver goes, well, that's helpful, isn't it? But they are worried about the degradation of the hardest compound available to them. It's always traditionally a one-stop here because of the lost time. It's higher than most circuits, 24.5 seconds on average you lose in the pit lane. And in the days of refueling.
Okay, try your best.
Load down to the end of the tank. Max Verstappen on lap 34 now. Last time around, fastest tour of the Grand Prix. So 1:25.2, just to place into context where he is right now. Perez did a 26.0, Sainz did a 25.9. He is comfortable and extending that gap up to 7.5 seconds.
Yeah, you can see DRS wide open on the McLaren, but it makes no headway at all into how... It's actually very interesting. You know, that Williams is very quick in a straight line. They've come up with a car with a sort of low drag configuration, which would normally suggest a lower level of downforce.
Further back, we cycle through the order. Esteban Ocon and Kevin Magnussen. And Ocon doesn't have much from this Grand Prix weekend, but he does have a fine pass around the outside, which turned into the inside at 2.
He's been good with his racing this year. There was another circuit that you're going to remember for me where he went round the outside in a very brave move.
Yeah, in Belgium, super move on Yuki Tsunoda.
There you go. And Alex, I trust. I knew you told that back to me. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, that was brave, it was committed, and managed to avoid any contact as well.
So that was a fine move, but it's been a weekend to forget. Lawson has got past as well, and Ocon is behind Lance Stroll by 7 seconds, so that must have been from a while back, that pass.
Is Checo defending? No, not defending, 26.0 his lap time. Take your rhythm in free air.
Hanging on to second place, worried about the degradation of the tyres. Perez is now seeing Charles Leclerc come back at him. Good racecraft from Charles Leclerc. Wasn't expecting this, but maybe he's looking after those Pirellis to get them to the end.
Doing a great job at the minute, managing them nicely. McLaren's starting to struggle.
And that's an encouraging message for Alex Albon, chasing his best result of the season so far. A season where he's really improved his stock in Formula One. He was always rated as a very quick driver. He's added so many elements to his racecraft in the last couple of years. Williams are delighted to have him as team leader. Checking in on the progress of Logan Sargent as well. Sargent has spent 20 laps on his hard tyres. He's 1 place out of the points. Sargent yet to score in Formula One this year, but that is a long stint on the hard tyre.
Okay, Lando, we think Albon is struggling quite a lot here, there, as you see.
Yeah, I see the same as you see. So.
A slightly direct Lando Norris on the radio there. Great sound of the V6 turbocharged engines heading down to the Parabolica.
I've got to say, I love Lando's sort of heart on his sleeve communications in Zandvoort a week ago. I think he was on the radio and they asked, can you stay out in these tyres? He's like, yeah. So it's actually confidence inspiring.
Yeah, we're going to do it. We're just falling like Apple very soon. I feel that.
Understood, Nico. If we go back onto a medium, how was the balance on medium?
Balance is never great. I don't know what to do. Just do what you think.
quick, and this is all about car design. This is all about aerodynamic efficiency. The Williams, incredibly slippery in a straight line. The McLaren creates more drag, and therefore this is Williams' greatest opportunity if you have a straight fight all year long, for whatever reason.
Okay, Lando, we think Albon is struggling quite a lot here, there, as you see.
Yeah, I see the same as you see. So.
And they've pinpointed this one because last year Alex Albon had appendicitis and had to watch his car handed over to Nick de Vries, who scored a very fine 9th place on his Formula 1 debut. It would be his only point score in Formula 1, let go by AlphaTauri halfway through this season. But Albon never had the chance to race the Williams with its incredible top speed around this circuit. He's waited all year long for it, and in fact, DC, he checked into exactly the same hotel room as he did last year, and he went straight to reception. He said, "I'm not staying in that." Superstitious racing drivers at it again.
Yeah, well, it's intel I never expected to get from you as to which hotels and rooms the drivers are in, but yeah, some of them are superstitious. I personally wasn't, but a little lock-up there from Lando in McLaren as he tries to apply more pressure to the back of Albon, and that's bringing Piastri onto his gearbox.
Now we're screwed because I don't know how this tire's going to last. Others have made it as far on the medium tyre.
Yeah, Hamilton just hasn't found a sweet spot this weekend, and George Russell is a full 20 seconds up the road, started in slightly cleaner air, and is having, as you know, he's 7 seconds behind Leclerc, 15 up the road from Albon, so he's having a fairly lonely race. Will lose.
Okay, Lando, we think Albon is struggling quite a lot here, there, as you see.
Yeah, I see the same as you see. So I can't get past it.
Which will help Charles Leclerc, and it will drag both of them back to Carlos Sainz. So it could be the three of them glued together once again, as they were for a long period of this Grand Prix. As Max Verstappen now has the gap out at 8.3 seconds, and that looks like a good exit out of the Parabolica.
Now we're screwed because I don't know how this tire's going to last. Others have made it as far on the medium tyre.
Trying to go around the outside and bailing out of the move is Lando Norris, who will feather out of the throttle and give the place back to Alex Albon, and try and do so by staying ahead of his teammate. Albon stays ahead for the moment. Norris back into the slipstream. He'll try it all over again next time.
Actually looks as if, even with that aborted attempt to go through the chicane and giving the place back, as he gives the second chicane first apex a mighty clout with his McLaren, and it looks like he actually opened slightly bigger gap. Now look at the gap to Piastri, or maybe it was about the same. So tries to hang it out around the outside and aborts.
He forced me off. I was completely alongside.
We saw that.
I was completely alongside. He saw me.
Well, yeah, you were almost completely alongside, but the natural line through that corner is the one that Alex was taking, and that's where
Arrow, lots of brake, consistent, similar to that line.
decided, well, look, the line is going to close down, but I'm not moving, and then the inevitable contact happened.
Front tyres look horrible on that Williams. They look really like they've taken a punishment around this circuit. It's very nearly a 4-car battle. Do you remember when Hamilton was 4 seconds behind this battle? It's now 1.4 Williams ahead of McLaren, and wait for it, there will be a Mercedes.
Okay, I'll keep you informed of the gap behind. Remember, these are on medium tyres. They will start to go off for the guys behind.
He got the gap down to 0.6 of a second. Now, Perez has DRS to Sainz ahead. He'll be relieved to get to the back of the Ferrari's rear wing.
Yeah, he's worked hard, hasn't he, to get in that position. And that will improve his lap time for no major effort. And it will also then mean that the advance or the holding of position from Charles Leclerc will be neutralised.
Here we go again. These three.
So it's a 1.7 ahead to that group. They are tripping over each other. They're racing hard.
Box to overtake.
Yeah, pushing confirm.
So we weren't expecting 2 stops in this Grand Prix, but he's pushing confirm because he's saying on the radio at least that he's coming in.
Well, that's going to drop him behind Bottas, who's in 12th place, so he's going to have to drive some qualifying laps.
So they're confident from what they're seeing on the radio that that's the right way to go. And he was dipping in, and then he pulled back to the racing line. So what, is a bit of kidology there?
Yeah, 100%. They were trying to bluff to get Albon to cover, but then he would be down behind Bottas as well if he did.
Albon does have great top speed, so easier to overtake in a Williams than a McLaren around this circuit. And I do think the condition of Alex Albon's tyres mean that he is going to be the cork in the bottle before too long. On board with Lewis Hamilton, a 5-time winner of this Grand Prix, just trying to improve up to 8th place. Does he have the...
Lando, box to overtake, box to overtake.
Yeah, pushing confirm.
It's there, so Hamilton will say, well look, he pushed me off and he never made the corner.
Hearing that Esteban Ocon is bringing the Alpine back to retire. Had a good overtake, and that is the entire summation of the things that Esteban Ocon has enjoyed about this Italian Grand Prix. We're on board with Sergio Perez, the only other winner in Formula 1 2023. He's trying to get past Carlos Sainz.
Steering locking massively.
Okay, mate, understood.
Into 8.
Copy that. Keep us updated, please.
For Checo Perez, not confident to go for the lunge, so he needs to hope to get off Parabolica in a sort of closer formation to Ferrari and then get the car on the inside.
Perez biding his time. He knows he has the superior tyre wear. He knows he has the superior car compared to Sainz ahead. Doesn't need to go for any risky moves. But all the time he's kept behind one Ferrari, the other one closes back in. We go on board with Lewis Hamilton, who's going to try and stand on the power now, and he's got superior rubber in terms of compact, in terms of tyre life. Hamilton against Piastri, flat to the floor as we go through Curva Grande. He's looking for that inside line. Piastri gives him the squeeze, but you've got to give it car's length. Oh, he's made contact! He's made contact off the road. They both go, and that's contact with 2 cars in the Grand Prix now. And damage for Oscar Piastri. Hamilton takes the place off the road. Another dramatic moment for Oscar Piastri's Grand Prix.
Okay, mate, sorry about that. When you come to a stop, we'll go to P1, please. Okay, stop on the marks and go to P1. Very sorry.
Safety car depending on the will of the stewards.
On board with Sergio Perez, he wants that inside line. He wants to go to the right-hand side of your picture. Sainz knew it and shut the door. Can he slow the car down? He can. And Perez will have to wait. Sainz, slow off the corner, but it works for him at the moment. Piastri coming into the pits to change there. Hamilton got ahead. I think race control will say, yeah, that's fair enough after the contact. There wouldn't be any investigation there. Norris continues to be tucked underneath the rear wing of Alex Albon. Battles everywhere you look all of a sudden.
Yeah, and again into later stages of the race, fuel's burned off, cars becoming a bit more nimble. You can see that the end plate has detached itself somewhere around the racing lap. And this is always a sort of add 10 seconds to any pit stop. New set of tyres going on.
The performance of Oscar Piastri in recent weeks means that sometimes you forget he's a rookie. But into the second chicane, he was trying to squeeze him, looking out of the cockpit on the left-hand side to the second chicane.
Yeah, well, look, here's the controversial.
He just turned across me in the braking.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Lewis didn't really give him enough space. He started to, open the steering to take what would be considered more of a normal racing line into the second chicane. And of course, Piastri couldn't go anywhere. So if anyone has to apportion blame, I would say Lewis needed to give him a bit more space, which Carlos Sainz is not giving Checo Perez.
Perez is going to risk the nose to the inside, and he bails out of the first chicane. And Sainz gets back to second place. Perez had to give him the position back, but this is getting tighter and tighter and tighter every time they go into the braking zone of the Rettifilo.
Yeah, I don't think there was any chance that Perez was going around the outside of turn 1, given how far back he was.
He just turned across me in the braking.
Yeah, we saw that. We saw that.
Lewis Hamilton and Oscar Piastri is under investigation for causing a collision. Perez remains with a detailed view of the Ferrari rear wing, a slightly altered Ferrari livery for this race, paying tribute to their Le Mans winning car. That is Ferrari's best day of the motor racing season so far. They returned to the top tier of Le Mans and they won it the first time in decades. Sainz remarking on what Perez was trying to do to get past. Leclerc is still part of this battle, and if they get much closer, Leclerc's going to be flung up to second place.
Yeah, you saw Perez in a very wide line through the final corner, but it's given him a good run. He'll get DRS, of course, and the slipstream. He's got to try something different because all his moves have been neutralised by Sainz.
You know where Sainz is going to put the car by this point, and no chance to look into the first chicane. How about the second one?
It's a tape match. See him off. We've reported.
See him off. I'm liking it as an instruction.
So there is a bit of debris exit of turn 10. It's on the left, not on the racing line, and you haven't really passed it. So a bit of debris on the left, exit turn 10.
This Grand Prix, Sergio Perez managing to put it fifth on the grid. This is the never-ending story of Lando Norris trying to get past the Williams of Alex Albon, and it is really a view that he is used to lap after lap after lap. He's Miles though, heading to the second chicane. Hamilton's got the penalty, but who's got sixth position? Albon brave on the brakes, squeezes Norris, who's got superior tyres on that McLaren, but it has been placement to perfection so far for Albon.
Yeah, a little pressure, I guess, might come off Lando Norris now that he'll be informed that Hamilton has that 5-second penalty for not leaving enough room for Piastri on the run down to the second chicane. Hamilton with DRS, I couldn't see where the land.
He did the same to Max. See him off. We've reported.
And he knows the treatment he's going to get from Carlos Sainz. He's got a lot more speed this time. Will he be forced to take the outside line? Will Sainz give him the room? You already knew the answer to that question. And back onto the road they go. Perez up to second place. He'll need to give the place back to Sainz. Doesn't really look like he's in the mood to do it though.
Bit of carbon coming off the car. There's a sort of sleeping policeman curb that he ran over. So has that damaged the underside of his car? I think he's got to try something different. It's just
Oil damage.
Is that front wing?
I can't tell.
Okay, tyres are okay. We're taking the rest.
Outside for Lewis Hamilton, who gets past Lando Norris, and that is hard tyre versus medium tyre, fresher medium tyre at that, and a position gain for Hamilton, but he's got to get past Albon, and then he's got to absolutely hammer into this racetrack in a way that he has done time and time again in his Formula One career. In the state of the front tyres, you'd want slightly fresh.
9 laps to go. Stellar job, mate. Stellar.
I think the fronts are just getting too hot on the brakes.
Well, if you feel it's all fair, then that is how you're going to have to race. But he's closer than he's ever been. He's got to try and get over to the right-hand side.
Best run he's had so far for second place. Oh, he thought about it, and Sainz went tight to the wall. Perez has got the DRS. Perez has got the place. At last, Sergio Perez slows the Red Bull down, and by the time he leaves the first chicane, he's up to second place in the Grand Prix.
Charles Leclerc might have an opportunity to come back at his teammate.
So Sainz struggling to slow the car down. He had a moment through Parabolica. That correction of the car at speed allowed the Red Bull through, and it is a Red Bull 1-2 on that 46 of 51. This is Lewis Hamilton trying to do the same thing at the first turn. It's a softer compounded tyre for the Mercedes, and he goes the long way round, looking to try and turn it into a traction race because they...
He's not leaving any room, man. Come on. We cannot wait like this.
A 5-second gap to the Williams. At the moment, he can't make the pass.
Yeah, he's going to discover just how fast that, well, similarly powered Mercedes is in the Williams setup. Very quick in a straight line, even with the offset compound. That's not going to help him when you're dealing with just pure power and drag. Charles Leclerc closer than he's been to Carlos Sainz.
Not giving enough space.
Hope you'll have a look.
No, I said I didn't give him enough space.
Yeah, no stress, Lewis. Let's just get on with it, because I reckon you've got the pace to have these guys and pull away.
Italian Grand Prix, but he's locked up to give another opportunity to decide who cranks on the steering wheel, looking for the line. There might be results. How did he not make contact with his teammate there?
I feel that I've just seen a ghost car. You know, the wheels, they must have been so close to touching.
Sainz has the inside line. Will he have the position? Lock up. Oh, they nearly made contact again. This is really aggressive stuff from the two teammates.
Ferrari, well, guaranteeing they get the lion's share of the television coverage. As a reminder, Max Verstappen is leading this race.
Lewis Hamilton is up to 6th position, and now it's a time trial for him. He's cleared Alex Albon, and now he needs 5 seconds ahead of the Williams driver, who's trying to keep Lando Norris behind. There's the defensive move. Norris can't find a way by. Still, Albon hangs on to the position against Norris, but he couldn't keep the medium tyre and Lewis Hamilton behind.
Well, these two were posting pictures playing tennis or paddle during the week, and well, that was friends during the week. On the weekend, no such thing.
Not on the racetrack, not at a Formula One Grand Prix. Max Verstappen on his way to a moment of motor racing history in a couple of laps' time. Great battles, intense battles. How good has it been to not just see slam dunk overtakes? It's been on the brink so many times today.
And Alonso behind is on hard tires, 1 lap older than yours.
Okay, it's fine. I'm just going to race to the end.
The crowd, but the battle between Norris and Albon is allowing Alonso in 9th to come onto the back of them.
Great sound of the Ferrari turbocharged engine heading down to the second chicane. Sainz has played such a part of making this an entertaining Grand Prix today. Held the lead in the early laps as we check in on another move, this time for Lewis Hamilton. And see, it is possible to overtake a Williams in a straight line. He went the long way round at turn 1.
Yeah, he got enough of his car alongside in the braking zone, so DRS doing its thing. See the red lights indicating that there's no longer deployment, and crucially he had enough of his front wheel just ahead of the front wheel of the Williams to mean that Alex wouldn't take the normal line.
So Max Verstappen fought his way by before the first pit stop. 3 laps to go for his moment.
Max, could you increase the gap to Gasly, please? Increase gap to Gasly. It's quite an urgent request.
Beyond that total, we do not know who will be on the third step of the podium. It looks likely that it'll be a Ferrari driver in red overalls, but which one will it be? And if they fight too hard, they might open the door for George. They are fighting hard once again. This is gloves-off stuff between the two drivers from Ferrari.
Well, all credit to Ferrari in letting the drivers go. I was saying at the beginning of the race, was that the right strategy in terms of maximising or minimising their race time? But I guess they've seen the big picture. They weren't in the battle really with the Red Bulls, and they've let their drivers go for it. Carlos earned the right to be in front based on qualifying.
Norris is surely going to get past Alex Albon this time. They were virtually level. Yes, Norris gets up to 7th place. We'll bring you the replay as quickly as we can. But the great defence from Alex Albon as Charles Leclerc nearly drops it off the road at the second Lesmo, gathers it all together again. Norris is P7.
So that's 4 laps to go. We show 2 seconds behind is quicker than us. We're concerned about these vibrations.
Chip, says Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, look, they're all in now. Only a couple laps to go. This is a great motor race. 2 equal cars, 2 brilliant drivers, race winners. Carlos is going to be under pressure once again. Charles in a slightly wider line as he searches for clean air across that front wing of his Ferrari, and he is going to get a monster slipstream again.
Here's the opportunity for Charles Leclerc to take his place on the podium. His teammate stands directly in front of him. Huge speed as they scrub it off down from 200 miles an hour. That is deep into the corner. And through we go. It's very, very tight. Sainz stays ahead for the moment, but he's checking the mirror. He's taking the tight line through Curva Grande because he's having to use all of his considerable skill behind the wheel to keep his teammate behind. Charles Leclerc's going to get one last opportunity on the last lap.
Right, this would be the appropriate time to be.
Guys, let's bring this home.
With his teammates to try and get that podium.
He has been all over the road in this part of the circuit. This is Oscar Piastri, and Piastri getting past Liam Lawson, the sole remaining AlphaTauri. Did so off the road. Not too interested about being the place back, and he still holds 12th position at the moment. Looks like there's a pretty sizable gap there.
And no risk, race until the end, no risk.
Okay, one part.
3 to go. Joe has DRS behind. Gasly close behind him.
And, well, I guess they just don't want to be quoted as, getting their drivers to stand down. But I don't think anyone would criticise them. They're going to get a Ferrari on the podium either way. Brilliant yesterday, just not quite quick enough in comparison to Red Bull on a Sunday.
Is there a late lunge? There was! And he very nearly went into the back of his teammate. If that's Charles Leclerc's idea of no risk, my word, it will be...
Copy, he should give you the position you overtook off track. Copy that. Keep them pushing, keep pushing.
Nervously laughing, because that could have been them both wiped out.
That was nearly George Russell on the podium.
And he's right back at him again. Sainz must be in all sorts of trouble because Leclerc missed the chicane, must have some small flat spots on his tyres. Sainz, look how painfully slow he is. He's ran out of tyres.
He was worried about this earlier on. The two Ferraris are going to scrap all the way to the checkered flag. We're on the 51st and last tour.
And no risk, race until the end, no risk.
The consecutive win record is about to be rewritten at this great monument to motor racing. We are witnessing something that no one has ever seen in the entire history of Formula One. A landmark for Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen wins 10 Grand Prix in a row to take the all-time record. And the Ferraris are scrapping all the way to the line. Unbelievable stuff. Perez is second, and it was 1/10 of a second between third and fourth for Sainz and Leclerc after a brilliantly intense Italian Grand Prix.
Fernando Alonso still hunting down the back of Lando Norris there. Looking at the gaps, Hamilton has gone across the line, and well, he's run out of time on Albon. And Lando Norris there, well, the old wily fox brought himself back into the battle on a circuit that just didn't really suit the Aston Martin.
What defensive driving from...
This is the last lap.
Did have the clearance. He finished 7 seconds ahead of Alex Albon, so he keeps 6th position. Albon in 7th, Norris in 8th, Alonso in 9th, and returning to the points in Formula One, Valtteri Bottas. But it's a history-making moment for Max.
Okay, Max, you've done it. A little bit of history to go with it.
Not too bad. Well done, guys. Another win. Unbelievable. And a nice one too as well.
Max, that is mighty. 10 races in a row, you're on your own, mate, now. That's history. Unbelievable. Well done.
Yeah, that's a nice stat.
Yeah, you can be proud of that one.
A stroll in the parks, I might say, Max. Mate, that's remarkable. Be proud.
Victory at Monza. And if you think of all the great names in our sports history, it is Max Verstappen who scores Formula One's first perfect 10. 10 Grand Prix victories in a row. What an achievement.
Well, there'll still be those who doubt how good he is. They'll say it's the car. They'll say, well, you know...
I'd say that's a pretty wicked job. You fought for that one, kept it clean, awesome.
Yeah, good job, guys. Nice result. Yeah, good job. Well done, guys.
Yeah, that was a very solid comeback for Checo Perez. He was tentative. It took him a while, didn't it, to finally get his way through. But a 1-2 for Red Bull on this historic day. Well, surely no one can doubt just how great Verstappen is. Yes, he's got a car, but boy, does he use it well.
It was great racing earlier on. He forced the mistake from Carlos Sainz to take the lead. And whether you are a fan of Max Verstappen or not, remember the moment because you never know if you'll ever see 10 in a row beaten again.
Very good weekend, you nailed it. Good job.
Okay, Max, you've done it. And a little bit of history to go with it.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Well done, guys. Another win. Unbelievable. And a nice one too as well.
Max, that is mighty. 10 races in a row. You're on your own, mate. Now that's history. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well done.
Yeah, that's that's a nice stat.
Yeah, you can be proud of that one.
A stroll in the park, some might say, Max. Mate, that's remarkable.
The podium there.
I'd say that's a pretty wicked job. You fought for that one. Kept it clean. Awesome.
Yeah, good job, guys. Nice result. Yeah, good job. Well done, guys.
Rewritten the record books as Red Bull score their 6th 1-2 of the season. Verstappen just keeps rolling on every single Grand Prix Sunday since April the 30th. He's been P1 by the end of it, and that has been a demonstration of domination unlike anything we've ever seen in the entire history of Formula One. Amazing. The celebrations are richly deserved. They deserve to go on long into the night. 10 in a row, unprecedented. A brilliant battle between the two Ferraris. It's Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. Line astern in the order. That doesn't tell the story of the Grand Prix at all. It was intense all the way through, and thrillingly so.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed the entire weekend. The atmosphere, the energy of the crowd. We had that fairy tale of this man on pole position. Tense battle between them. Max Verstappen biding his time, the maturity that is there now. And, well, that was a thoroughly good Grand Prix as far as I'm concerned.
So in the end, Hamilton did build enough time on Alex Albon to make sure he finished ahead. He finished 7 seconds ahead, add the 5-second penalty, and he was ahead by 2.4 seconds. There was a penalty applied for Oscar Piastri of 5 seconds for overtaking off the road. It promotes Liam Lawson to 11th place in only his 2nd Grand Prix.
Well, the Bulls beat the prancing horse, so well done to both of you. Both done a mega job today.
Yeah, really, really good team result this.
A bag home to Monaco for me. And
Okay, Shem, it was very close to the points. We'll review everything we've done. Anyway, it was a clean weekend from your side. The pace was there, so we'll keep it up. Good job.
Copy. Thank you.
I feel relieved for Checo because he's gone through a difficult time. There's been questions. He's had to field those questions from all. And, well, he may have got the yips a bit in qualifying, but that was a really solid race weekend from him.
Let's hear from the top three. They are speaking.
Enjoy the podium.
Thank you.
And we are at P3 in the championship for constructors.
Good. Good, good.
Them behind, and in the end I end up paying a bit of price with the rear tires, but I did everything I could to defend with all the cars that I could, and yeah, brought it home in the LP3, but it was a tough one for sure.
And that battle with your teammates, oh my goodness, that was close.
It was tough, hard racing. It's always been a pleasure to race Charles whenever we've had the chance, and today was the same. Great racer, same as Max and Checo. You know, we have fun out there today, and I hope you guys enjoyed also.
I think, the Red Bull car was just too fast again today, so can you still be happy with that P3 here at Monza, the home race?
I think we just need to keep working on our pace, on our tire understanding. I think today it was obvious that we were wearing the tires a bit more, and we were just lacking a bit of pace, but it's definitely a big step forward compared to Zandvoort. And this weekend we've been best of the rest, which is a good result for the team given the circumstances.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Checo, what a great catch-up you did in that race. Can you be happy with P2?
I think it was basically the maximum we could have achieved today. It was so difficult to overtake, a lot harder than we really thought. I think we were lacking some Australian speed. We were having some great exits out of Parabolica, but still it was not enough. I was most of the time 0.2, 0.3, and 0.2 will give me a chance, but 0.3 I will not even get close. So yeah, to get through Charles and then to get through Carlos, it was pretty insane because I had to use a lot of my tires.
And I mean, you were trying everything, being creative, trying outside lines in Parabolica and everything. Did you at times think, damn, this is not going to work, or you were really confident?
Yeah, I really thought at times, especially in the beginning, you know, like I couldn't get close to Charles because we were stuck in the DRS. I started to put the pressure on Charles, and he lost the DRS from Carlos. And then, yeah, it was also a lot of fighting with him, and in the end, we managed to get both of them.
Your pace in the race when you're clear, you know, it's really looking good all weekend. Do you think you're going to be able to find some progress now for the rest of the season to get closer to Max?
Yeah, I think we've done a lot of progress on the setup side. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable in the car. So I do expect that we will see the best form in the next races.
We look forward to that then. Good.
Thanks.
Best of luck.
Well, great.
Max Verstappen, unbelievable once again, another record, huh? 10 in a row. Does that mean something to you? Is that special?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I never would have believed that was possible, but we had to work for it today, and that made it definitely a lot more fun.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at one of those moments battling with Carlos all the way through the beginning of the race. How hard was that?
Yeah, we had good pace. I think we were good on the tires, but they had a lot of top speed, and it was so hard to get close and get a move on into turn one, so I had to force him into a mistake. And luckily, it came at some point where he locked up, and then I had better traction, of course, out of turn two, and basically from there onwards we could again do our own race.
Did you doubt at one point, like, oh man, maybe I'm not going to be able to win this today?
I was just trying to stay patient. It was still a very long race. I could see they were struggling a lot with the rear tires, so I just had to pick my moment.
And after that, just awesome car, felt great, yeah?
Everything felt good. We had to nurse a little issue at the end, but we had luckily, of course, a gap behind, so I could easily back off.
Amazing. So congratulations again to win here in Monza. Very special.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, excellent to hear from the top three, speaking to Nico Rosberg there. What an iconic venue it is to create some motor racing history for Max Verstappen, who is on his way to his third World Championship. It is going to be win 47 in his career, his 91st podium. But the only statistic you will be hearing about for the rest of the day will be 10 in a row. And the Max Verstappen podcast continues.
Bueno, ya tardé por ahí un poco, Checo. Esperaba un poquito. Ya, pero no van a frenada, la regla es una frenada.
D'après Prix, quand on est sur le circuit, on voit quelques-uns.
No dice antes, que me moví antes de la frenada, pero voy a frenada. No dice antes, que me moví antes de la frenada, pero voy a frenada. Ah, pero me has pasado bien, Sí, pegaste sin batería, ¿no?
Much how it looked in the race.
Esperaba un poquito. Ya, pero no van a frenada, la regla dice una frenada. ¿Sabes? No dice
Antes. Yo me movía antes de la frenada y luego ya frenada. Ah, pero me has pasado bien, ¿eh? Sí. Pegaste sin batería, ¿no? Sí. How was it?
I mean, I felt sorry for you. He was sliding like crazy.
Did you see? We were the rear. That's crazy.
I mean, in a way, like the deck of course is higher, but the top speed saved you many times.
Yeah, yeah.
You had no kick. He was just cancelling it.
So tight, eh? Like we're racing at 340.
That was the last lap, right? Last lap?
He went for it, yeah. Nearly took it. It was hard. I mean, I didn't enjoy it because I was defending, but battles were good.
How does Max Verstappen know that was on the last lap?
He must have seen it on a screen around there somewhere, wasn't he? Around the one of the fan screens.
Maybe that's why he went a bit slowly on the last lap then. He was too busy watching the telly. Oh, what an afternoon to be at Monza. Some thrilling moments in the Italian Grand Prix, and the Tifosi, well, they would have wanted a victory, I'm sure. But after the season that their team are having, to walk away with a podium, that is cause for celebration. Being in Monza watching Formula One, I think, is cause for celebration, full stop.
Yeah, I think the Ferrari fans will go home reasonably happy with that. Their boys, their team, at least put up a decent fight to Red Bull today. Aston Martin a little bit anonymous this weekend. Their car just hasn't worked on this high-speed track layout, has it?
Well, they didn't think it would be their best race, but even by those standards, that's a disappointing afternoon for the Silverstone team. But not for Ferrari or for Carlos Sainz. 29 years old on Friday, and a first podium finish of the 2023 season, and it's come at Ferrari's home race as he shows his cap and proudly displaying the Ferrari name. For Sergio Perez, he knows what this podium's like, but it's been a while since he's been on it. 2012 when he finished second for Sauber, the last time he stood on this podium. And this man knows what it's all about. His 27th win since the start of last season. That ties to Jackie Stewart's entire career total. So yes, a 27th win since the start of last season and a 47th win in his career. The Pirelli Trophy commissioned by an Italian artist, I do think looks rather lovely. And a medal as well from Mohammed bin Sulayem, the FIA president. Verstappen on top of the podium, on top of the world, quite frankly. And it's not if, but when he gets another world title to his name, I'm sure. Jamie Tajinski collects the Constructors' Trophy for Red Bull, who, we shouldn't forget, 15 race wins in a row, setting a history-making record of their own today.
Very, very impressive indeed. The best podium in motorsport. Le Mans was pretty damn good as well, I must say, but I think this is the best.
Listen to the roar.
I've ever seen.
Listen to the roar. I knew they'd enjoy that. Carlos Sainz started on pole, defended as hard as he could, but couldn't tame the bulls. Who can in 2023? Max Verstappen, 10 out of 10 in succession. The Red Bull juggernaut rolls on.
Well, incredible stuff by Max Verstappen. Really, it was never in doubt from the moment he got past Carlos Sainz, who defended valiantly. But in the end, it's so light on its tyres, isn't it, that Red Bull? Which isn't the case necessarily for the pair of Ferraris, but some terrific racing there between the Ferrari pair at the end, and you have to think that Carlos Sainz perhaps deserved that for his performances this weekend, because on his 29th birthday weekend, 29 on Friday, of course, he was quickest in practice 2, quickest in practice 3, took his pole position, the 4th of his career, and he was just able to hold off a charging Charles Leclerc towards the end. Good drive from Sergio Perez too, to come through from 5th to 2nd. He picked his moments, he took his opportunities when they presented himself, bided his time, and in the end, it's another 1-2 for that Red Bull pairing, because the RB19 in the hands of Max Verstappen is absolutely dominant in 2023. Could win it as soon as Japan now, 145 points clear of his teammate and his nearest rival, but you have to just take your hat off to everybody in that Red Bull team, from the design team all the way through to the mechanics, the drivers, just everybody really that makes it tick at Milton Keynes. They've done it, and the Tifosi will be disappointed, but they've come home with a 3rd and 4th, which perhaps was the best they could have hoped for with those faltering tyres. There's your 1, 2, 3. Huge afternoon of football in the Premier League. And at the Emirates, it is Arsenal against Manchester United. They kick moments' time is Oscar Piastri, though, with the DHL fastest lap today. Finished, though, in 12th position, so it won't count for a point because he's outside of the top 10 at 1:25.072. But the story of today, he held off the early challenge of Carlos Sainz and his Ferrari. 10 out of 10 for Max. Another nigh-on perfect weekend for Max Verstappen and for Red Bull. First driver in history to win 10 consecutive championship races. Red Bull, the first constructor in history to win 15 consecutive championship races. They've now won 24 of the last 25 races, and they are quite simply unbeatable. That car, the RB19, is a masterpiece. It's a work of art. We give it praise, we sing it all the time, but we have to do it here, absolutely, because that was just imperious once again. Christian, what did you make of the afternoon's efforts?
Well, look, I mean, we had to do it the hard way. The Ferraris were very quick today, and we saw that in quali yesterday. And you know, Carlos was defending like his life depended on it. So, you know, first of all, Max had to get that pass done, and then we were able to pull out a gap. And I think they were just a little bit harder on their tires than we were. And Checo making some great moves to come through and get that 1-2, which of course gives Max now 10 victories in a row, which is, you know, breaking a record from you know, Sebastian 10 years ago, which is, you know, it's an incredible moment.
Obviously Max has a fantastic way of playing these moments down, at least in the build up to them, but as you say, a record's been broken today, and it's not just him, it's you, the team, you know, the performance, consistency of the car, reliability of the car, pit stops. It's a massive effort from everyone, isn't it?
It's a huge effort from every single department, because, you know, say it time and time again that it's not what happens just here, it's what goes on behind the scenes. And Formula One is the biggest team sport in the world, and you need every member of that team, you know, doing their job and having their investment in this car, which, you know, they've done. And this victory is down to everybody, you know, in the Red Bull team that have done such an amazing job.
Just one more time, I want to come back to the race today, that defending between Carlos and Max, which was like incredible to watch. From your point of view, like, was your team manager saying, hey, that's too aggressive, that's not on? Or because even Max said, hey, that's a naughty boy.
Yeah, there was a few comments raised. I mean, Carlos was very robust. He was a little late at times, he moved a bit. I mean, look, he's driving a Ferrari in Monza, he's going to defend for his life, so we kind of expected it. And you know, when both guys managed to get down the inside, you know, they managed to make that move stick.
I mean, for us, it was within regulation, because Max was never totally in front, you know,
yeah,
and that's what matters.
Look, it was on the limit, it was great racing. And, you know, for us to win here, it's, you know, it's massive.
Well, look, they both had new power units in for the weekend. Obviously, it worked for them. But did you always think, judging by their relative weaknesses, which obviously has been tyre wear this year, did you gear your setup more for the race and maybe give a little bit away on Saturday, and then know that you were going to really have the advantage today?
Yeah, I mean, all season we've sort of put more emphasis on Sundays and Saturdays. And I think we knew the temperature was going to be very hot today, and you know, Max, I think, commented after about 4 or 5 laps that he could see Carlos is moving around a bit on, you know, with his rear tires, and I think he knew that if he kept it cool, that you know, they were very vulnerable.
What's up with that straight line speed from the Ferraris? Like, is that the engine, or you think it's both, or what's going on there?
Well, they ran a very low wing. They put new engines in this weekend. Fresh engines always have that little bit more punch. Maybe they ran it a bit harder because it's Monza, but they were properly quick in the straights, and you know, even with the DRS, it was very hard to pass them.
How confident were you today that you were going to get both of your cars on the 2 top steps of the podium? It didn't seem so easy, but also, what's next? What's the next goal? What's the next record? How far can Max go?
Well, look, I mean, finishing, you know, 1-2s is incredibly hard, and you know, our team have done their job today. Great pit stops, great strategy, and of course, you know, that's now 14 victories in a row. And to think we're now leaving Europe unbeaten, I mean, that's insane.
I asked you a few races ago whether you could achieve the perfect season. You told me it was a stupid question, and it may well have been. But at what point, Christian, do you start dreaming about that? That would be huge in the history and the context of the sport. But it's 24 of the last 25 races. Surely it's in the back of your mind. Come on.
I mean, I'm going to tell you exactly the same, that we're taking it one race at a time. You know, Singapore street race, you know, it can rain out there. It's one of the toughest challenges on the calendar. So we've got some massive challenges ahead of us between now and the end of the season, and 9 other teams that want to stop us.
Great win today. Well done. Congratulations on the 10 out of 10. We'll let you go and enjoy it with the rest of them. But there's some fantastic battles out on track today, whether we're going to come onto the Ferrari on Ferrari. But let's first of all join out and have the Ferrari on Red Bull, because that wasn't too bad at the beginning, was it?
Wasn't just at the beginning, it was all the way through pretty much, wasn't it? Between
either Red Bull and the other Ferrari at any stage. So we start off with Verstappen versus Carlos Sainz here. Like Christian said, defending as if his life depended on it in the Ferrari on home soil. And Max has clearly had a great run here in the DRS and tries to go around the outside. Now this is an interesting one. We saw this happen quite a few times in the race today. Drivers